Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show. Welcome also to the Thursday morning edition of Second Breakfast. As you can see, I am doing some painting on my gigantoid Starship 3D printed model I picked up last month. I just doing a little white touch ups. You can see, like, it's not quite as white as that, and that's what I'm going for. Yeah, the ship is going to be red, white, and blue with some gunmetal. Maybe even some gold. I don't know about that yet, though. I haven't really seen any places on it that it would look good. How's everybody out there doing? The week is almost over. We have got a concert tonight with Jackie and his school band. Looking forward to that. And then a relatively relaxed weekend. No family, no big trips, no big events. Gonna maybe do some spring cleaning and get ready for the summer. Jackie will be out of school in, I think, next week or the week after. And then it is summer vacation for the entire family. And no idea if we're doing anything big or exciting. As many of you saw this morning, I am starting a craft challenge series once or twice a month. We'll do a craft for those people interested in getting some scattered terrain, some new buildings or monsters or whatever it is. Hey, what's up? I was just thinking about you the other day, man. I haven't seen you in a while. You were here like the first week of second breakfast, and I wanted to ask you, uh, Sean, about you do a lot of online gaming, right? Or is that not a thing? So I'm trying to get like, I guess, codify some online gaming rules and etiquette, because I find that a whole lot of rules as written, especially for so naturally I prefer using YouTube to procrastinate. Good for you, or not. But I'm running an AD&D game, for the most part on Sundays, and there are a lot of rules that like weapon speed and armor that I've never used, or I haven't used since the '70s, just because they were a pain in the ass. But there's a lot of other things that just seem to have to be put aside when you've only got a 2 or 3 hour window to actually game and get as much of that in as possible when we're playing online. And I'm trying to get some ideas of what should and what should not stay. Oh, you play? Oh, okay. Well, maybe you still might have some thoughts as to how to make our online time more productive. Uh, weeding out the more time consuming, clunky rules so that we can get as much out of that as possible. It seems like rolling initiative, weapon speed is easily implemented. Yeah, but it takes up time, and I know I'm counting seconds, if not minutes, but on average, I'm in games where we get about 2 hours of gaming, and one thing like rolling initiative, rolling initiative every melee round, that can take up valuable minutes. Weapon speed only applies if there's a tie on initiative, or if you're figuring out if a weapon beats a spell. See, I always thought it was just always, you're using this weapon against this armor, therefore you get this, bonus or negative. Um, like I said, initiative. Uh, I've been in games where it took 10 minutes to get the initiative straight for reasons, mostly my own fault because I missed somebody's uh, initiative roll or something like that. And I find just doing one initiative at the beginning of the game, I've got like one character in the party that, because of their insanely high dexterity above 19, I believe, that, rolling a d6, it doesn't matter. They got the highest dex, unless I happen to give a dex bonus to the monsters, which often I do. Yeah. That weapon type, weapon speed as well, but that one's also complicated. I used to have the wheel, if you know what I'm talking about, and that really helped, but I don't anymore. And I just haven't. I thought to try to reprint another one, considering I only play AD&D once a week, so it's not as big a deal. If you're using that, simply tell your players the armor type based armor value, not final AC. Yeah. But I also find that I don't always pay attention myself to what armor they're wearing precisely. It's just what their armor class is. Again, to speed things up, um, my games are famous for getting interrupted for various things like me having to use the restroom, players deciding to suddenly start telling a story that has nothing to do with the game, which I'm not really going to be, super draconian. Oh, sure, I'll just put it here. There you go. We get really distracted. We've all been playing for, 2.5 years. We're all good friends. And, you know, uh, sometimes we'll just start talking about something that has nothing to do with the game. And, 3 out of 4 players don't really have a huge. What the hell happened there, buddy?
You kicked me out before I came on.
My touchpad or cursor, whatever, seems to be really, really uh, easy to hit sometimes. It was weird because if I don't, because I've got to use two hands instead of a single-handed mouse, which I should get, but there's just really no room on my table for
Yeah,
for
I hate the
such,
touch trackpad as well. It's I have to plug in and use a mouse when I'm doing editing because I need fine control, and the touchpad always screws me up. Yeah, hey, I'm always happy to come on board when we're talking AD&D First Edition.
it is my favorite of the fantasy games that exist for a whole bunch of reasons. When
Um,
Arduin comes out, you'll hear me singing a different tune.
I'm sure we all
But
have our favorite. AD&D is my favorite overall. Yeah, it's because of all the nuances. It's because of things like weapon speed and armor type. If you start excising it all, it loses its flavor. But when you put it all in, it gives you a unique experience. I'm
well,
trying
I
to get.
I, I, I I disagree on that one point. I think most of its flavor comes from originally. It didn't have racist class, so you could get a lot more varied NPCs as well as player characters,
Well,
so
that's
that the
part of the
players never really knew exactly what kind of NPC they were dealing with. When you don't have that, everybody just assumes everybody in the game has 2 to 5 hit points and they're a pushover, which I don't do.
well,
You bump into somebody, they're probably special.
yeah, see, I don't play that way. I adhere to the demographics, and the demographics are very clearly laid out. 1 in 100 of humans are adventuring class, so that means 99% of the population of any given world are going to be normal zero level people, and that's why characters stand out so much. So even if you have an average character, you make a character who's nothing but tens in their grid, but they're a fifth level fighter, they're still unbelievably powerful, right?
Right. Well,
And
what about okay? Hey, Janet, long time no see. Where do you start? Do you start at the top and go? They're the 1%, or do you randomly roll each and every individual?
no,
Because
well, if I'm world building, what I do is, let's say I've got a city with a population of 1 million. Right now, cities are going to skew the numbers, but for your baseline, that means 1%. So that's 10,000 people are going to be special. They're going to be adventuring class characters,
Mhm.
right? That's your general. Like you can play with the numbers, but that gives you a baseline to work with. And then I start with, okay, so we're going to say 50% of that number are going to be first level. First level soldiers are elite. That's something to think about. First
Mhm.
levels are elite. They're veterans. They're people with experience. They're only in terms of numbers only a little bit marginally more powerful than the average person, but they're still an elite. Then 50% of that number again is second level, then 50% third level. And you
Mhm.
keep having until you run out. And that gives you an idea of what the cap is what the highest level characters are going to be. Now, with a city, you can skew it a little because cities are going to draw in more special people because there's opportunities in a city,
Mhm.
whereas a small town is going to have fewer because all the people with skills are going to eventually leave. So you can play with the numbers here and there, but that gives you a good baseline.
Well, how do you reconcile things like modules and Greyhawk? If you go
They're
by
exceptions.
the
They're
guys
the
here,
exceptions, right? A lot of modules aren't written with that demographic in mind, unfortunately, but you still
mhm.
play it that they're the exceptions to the rule that whatever special people have been drawn to that scenario. So, like I said, it's a baseline. You don't look at it as hard and fast, got to adhere to it 100%, but it gives you your baseline. And the
Right, because
majority
then you get murder hobos who think they can kill entire cities.
and yeah, well, I mean, but even so, if you're playing D&D like AD&D properly, even a group of 10th level characters, they're gonna succumb to numbers, right?
Mhm.
A warrior is going to get 10 attacks per round against those 0 level soldiers,
Yeah,
but if you've got an army launching arrows at you at range, you're going to fall, and that's
sure.
the truth. Plus, the armies are going to have their special people in there, and that's why those demographics are further broken down. It's like for every, what, I don't know what the number is offhand, but let's say for every 40 soldiers, you're going to have a sergeant who's at least third level, right?
Hmm.
And for every 100, you're going to have a fifth level, or for every 1,000 in an army, you're going to have a 10th level general, something like that. So that all balances out. You might even have a couple wizards in there.
Hmm.
So that's why the numbers are like that. But I think it personally, from a world building perspective and a game perspective, it's very important that the majority of people that your players meet are ordinary people, and that makes the leveling feel much more special. If everything scales with your level, then it's like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah, yeah. The way, for example, Elder Scrolls,
Yeah,
Oblivion, those games that's retarded. There's no reason you suddenly should run into 50th level rats.
right.
It's
And
dumb.
that's the reason. If you look at the monster manual, like, okay, you look up the entry for bandits. It's like there's what 100 to 200 bandits, and they're all 0 level. Like they're all
Hmm.
0 level for a reason, but with the occasional, exceptional higher level bandit or wizard among them, things like that.
Hmm.
And that's fun for players. Like I know warriors, players in my games who play the warriors love the mook rule, right? Where they get one attack per level of experience against
Oh yeah,
anybody.
yeah. That's one of the best things about being a fighter. There's
Exactly.
nothing
And
like it.
but if every enemy you're facing, the DM scales, oh well, you're 10th level now, so you're all all these guards are now all 4th level. It's like, well, fuck you, right?
Right. No, no,
Um,
no. I'm talking about like, um, again, going back to Greyhawk. Every ruler is like a high level multi class dude. You know what I mean? Just like they were written or taken out of the deities and demigods book.
it's not
And
unreasonable that's going to happen, but I mean, I believe you
because
should have.
I can't see ever. I mean, maybe a little town, a village, a hamlet, something like that. The mayor, the leader, is a 0 leveler. I could see that might happen.
No,
But
I don't
after
mind at
that,
all. How much royalty? Like the prince is born privileged. He never gets out. He's never properly trained. He ascends.
mhm.
He's the prince by bloodline, but he's absolutely worthless because he hasn't got that experience. Or the other way to play it is just because somebody's 0 level doesn't mean they're useless. They're just the common man. That doesn't mean he's not smart. It just
Well,
means
it's all
have
going to boil
adventure
down to
experience.
combat, though. I mean, for the player's perspective, if he's a zero level, I just stab him with a dagger real quick. I'm king.
But well, that again, that doesn't necessarily work out that way. If somebody assassinates the king, most people are going, "Yeah, you're not my king. You're a fucking usurper. Kill him!" Right? The people within the kingdom who are loyal to the throne are coming after the usurpers. They're not just going to bow down. Oh well, you stabbed the king. I guess there's nothing I can do. Rules are rules, right?
Well, I mean, if you give the speech real quick, by right of assassination and Canley and blah blah blah.
If that's
Um,
the nature of the setting, then sure. But not all settings are going to be like that. But the important thing about zero levels is to understand that they are the baseline by which you measure the heroic nature of the PCs, right? So when you get like look at the level titles for the fighter, a fourth level fighter is called a hero,
mhm.
all right, and compare a fourth level fighter to the average zero level, and they would appear to be a hero. They are exceptional. At eighth level, you are a superhero. That is literally the title. You are a superhero. Now
Thought it
think
was
about
seven,
that.
but okay.
It's eight, yeah. But
But
think about
absolutely.
yeah, but think again. Look at the math and think about you take your average eighth level fighter with no special skills, no 18 strength or anything. They're like just a 10 strength, but he's eighth level and he's getting 8 attacks per round. He's an average of 40 hit points, 10 times stronger than the normal man,
Mhm.
right? And that's pretty amazing. So when you look at the numbers like that, the world building becomes sort of easy to parse. Even a wizard, an 8th level wizard who has now got a THACO of 19, so the equivalent of a second level fighter, and an
Mhm.
8th level wizard is going to have something in the range of 15 or 16 hit points. Even on a physical level, take away the magic, an 8th level magic user is a pretty formidable force compared to the normal man, and that's
Magic
something
missile
to think about.
spell.
I'm just talking the numbers. I'm talking the like you compare their fighting ability because their THACO is 19 now, so a
Mhm.
19 THACO is the equivalent of a second level fighter, and second level fighters are pretty elite, right? So when you look at the numbers, it helps you world build in that regard because you can compare what the average is, what the average person in the world is, to what your character level is at, and then you have an understanding of just how powerful you are. And you can work with that. There's role playing opportunities, and you might even got screwed on hit point rolls, and your eighth level fighter has only got 20 hit points. You are still a beast.
Janet, I've got a concert to go to tonight, but I have been trying to open up my Fridays so I can hang out with you on the old shit show because you talk about some stuff that I'd like to talk about that I don't normally talk about here. I'll hit you up in Discord, but you're also invited here, Sean. I
Yeah,
don't
it
know
was
if
on
you.
Janet's show
Yeah,
a couple of years back. We were talking. I can't remember what we
of
talked
course
about.
you were in the hero game. What am I thinking?
Yeah. So to your point about playing online, now I had a lot of trouble playing First Ed online, and that was technical limitation. It was during the pandemic, so we had to move our game online for a bit, but
Right.
um, and we were using Roll20. Now the thing with me is I'm very technical. I like the miniatures. I do theater. I blend theater of the mind and the mini play. I like the miniatures because when combat happens, I want. I mean, you can see my I've been doing my I've been doing my little tableau, so you can see it's all set up. Look how pretty that is.
Right. Yeah, you use
But
standees, but same
um,
thing.
yeah. So, but the point is, like, I love having that visual because if you go pure theater of the mind, especially in combat, you cheat a lot of players and the character classes out of their abilities. Thieves, for instance, they really benefit from tactical play, and so it's one of those things. Now Roll20 is severely limited for D&D, for AD&D first ed. The
Mhm.
best grid form is a one square is a 3.3 foot area. That's the ground scale for AD&D. So when you have a 3 by 3 grid, that's a 10-foot area, right? But
Okay.
AD&D has a variable scale as well. So if you're outdoors, every one of those squares is now a meter, a yard, right? And so because you increase your ranges and you increase your movement rate when you're an outdoor scale.
Why do you think that's the case? I've always wondered why suddenly just by being outdoors your spells would be more effective.
Well, if you get longer range, like okay, if you're shooting, you can arc your bow and you get better range than if you're
No,
shooting
I meant for
indoors.
spells.
Uh, spells. I mean, you can justify it any way you want.
I've
Perhaps,
never been able to wrap my head around that. It
yeah, it's a weird one, but I mean, I rather than throw away rules I can't figure out, I just justify them. Like for example, level limits. People argue to the hilt about level limits. I'm like, no, there's a perfect justification that demi-human brains just don't have that capacity to go beyond certain levels. The human brain is just a completely other thing, right? And
I I
uh,
get that with everything but magic users.
what do you mean?
Uh, Specifically, I guess elven magic users, in the fact that um, by most accounts, except for like religious texts, elves tend to be like the first
Okay,
and the creators of like the rules and written forms of magic, and that they would, with their extended lifespans, just invariably go up higher levels
right.
than
Well,
is normally listed at.
that's a logical that's a logical perspective, but the world isn't entirely logical in all regards.
Mhm.
Elves are inherently magic, but it's like I said, I go with the ability of their minds and their brains.
Mhm.
um because it's like, okay, so they understand they are inherently magical, but it doesn't mean they understand how it works or are able to get to that point. And that is the human special power, is that their brains are just we're quantum computers that can comprehend
Yeah, but
things.
how much of that is really based on, for lack of a better term, racism in the minds of the creator of the game?
I have no idea. I have no idea what they were thinking, other than, okay, we need a way to balance it because demi-humans are top loaded with all these great powers, and humans
Mhm.
don't seem to be. Again, I just, within my world, I just find the solution, the explanation, and I don't even necessarily explain it to the players. Like my whole
Oh, yeah.
background lore that the players will never figure out, or
Yeah,
not,
yeah,
maybe not
absolutely.
never,
There should
is
always be,
what.
stuff up your sleeve that they don't know about or
Right.
understand,
Like,
and don't
well,
give it to
I'll
them.
tell you, the sort of the secret lore that hasn't come up yet in my game is that humans were first. Humans evolved on Earth as per our reality. Humans evolved. They came into existence on their own, but the human ability to, and this is where the fantasy comes in, to manipulate quantum reality created the gods. And the gods are like, oh wait, if the humans die, we die. So they took samples of humans from Earth and populated other planets across the cosmos, and all the other races were the gods' attempts to recreate humanity, but they could never quite do it,
Mm.
right? And so that's sort of the lore I keep in the back of my mind. None of the players, it doesn't necessarily come into play in terms of the game, but for me that's what I've got going, and that's why the demi-humans are always limited, because the gods who are created by humans trying to replicate them so they can keep their own existence going,
Gotcha.
they've created these imperfect versions of humanity. So all these other races, the demi-humans and the humanoids, were attempts to recreate. Right. So to me, it's logical. It's fun. I mean, I wouldn't expect any other DMs to, oh, hey, that's great, and go with it. But
I've
for
always,
me,
ever since I was a little kid, and I watched Planet of the Apes for the first time, and read Chariots of the Gods and a bunch of other things. I always had the belief that there's got to be something out there that's better than man. Whether it's angels or aliens, I don't know, but there's got to be something. Especially if you look around today and see what we've done, what we've been given. I like the idea that there are, things out there that are more powerful, one way or the other. And it seems like the more I look into Gygax, you can't recreate perfection. But what if perfection was created before us? I mean, there were the angels, and those were pretty perfect. And if you take off the wings, you pretty much get elves, as far as I'm concerned. Um,
but I mean, that's reasonable lore. Like
and and and
that's
and it,
fun.
I'm not alone, because literally, like damn near every game that came out after AD&D did what I think is more accurate, and removed more and more of those restrictions. Because to me, it seems like humans, right off the bat, compared to everybody except maybe half orcs and dwarves, in a way, have more physical attribute bonuses, or should have had them. And there's other things humans could have been given to even everybody out so that as
Well,
a game mechanic it could have been more more even, you know what I mean?
later
Because
editions were simply responding to those complaints and queries as to why other races can't advance like humans, right? That's all that was. Whereas, like, if you're playing AD&D, I want to play AD&D. So here's the rule: level cap. How do I justify it in my own head? I'm not. I don't owe my players an explanation. The rule is: you take a half elf, you're limited in this level. You know, you take an elf, you're limited here.
do you use the player's handbook or the unearthed arcana for
A
those?
mix of both. I Unearthed Arcana for me is one of those optional expansions, so I don't use it whole hog. I take elements that I want to use. So I
Because right off the bat with just the addition of the higher stats, if you just progress the same stat limits, like if your stat is over 18, then you should be able to go
right.
higher,
So
because they showed the basis of that in the player's handbook, and I think the
I use the
under.
player's handbook limits for that. Like, so if you're a 17, you're a half elf with a 17 strength, you get +1 to your fighter limit, right? And if you're an 18, you get +2. Same with the elves. But what I do, the rule I add from Unearthed Arcana is they +2 to a single class. If you're a demi-human with a single class in a class that can be multi-classed, you get +2 to your cap.
Right,
So
then I got to wonder if okay, say you're running an elf and you've been campaigning for like 5 years and you max out,
mhm,
and there's no end in sight of the campaign for reasons. Maybe they're even doing domain play, and the DM says, well, I'm going to fast forward like 20 years so that your children can be first level, and we're going to start with that, right?
mhm.
Uh, couldn't those maxed out single classed profession demi-humans take that time to train to become a first level in a new profession?
If you allow it. I don't. I keep the baseline of the book. They are what they are, but also remember that non-humans, the elves, perceive time differently. Like, to them, they're virtually immortal. So, like, oh, has it been 20 years? Wow, your kids grow
Right,
up
and I
fast.
could also see it taking them, like hundreds of years to become a first level. But even then, that might be, you know, okay, fine, I'm still doing it. Just so that that particular player can keep playing that character that they've been playing for 5 years. I've seen that mentality where people just don't. It's like if I can't play the same character I've been playing, I'm not interested. Kind of, put their foot down, kind of thing. And I'm like,
I
well,
again, I run a troop style play. Everybody's got multiples, and so they'll
right,
swap out and do whatever
right.
they need to do. And that's troop style is another a great thing for when you have those level limits, where it's like, all right, well, I've got my elf built up to level 5, and they go on a new adventure, and player A is like, well, I'm going to take my 5th level fighter, and player B will say, well, I'll bring my elf in. He's comparable level. I mean, that's an option too. Now, my games, people tend to stick with their favorites, even though they have backups that they swap in and out. So it's not a constant rotation, but they have them when needed, because sometimes a character has to exit for whatever reason. But yeah, it's one of those things that if I'm playing AD&D, I want the AD&D experience. So I'm going to use the limitations. If I make a change or an adjustment, it's usually pretty carefully calculated, like unarmed combat. Unarmed combat in core DMG it's a shit show. So
What about psionics?
psionics, that's a funny thing. I've always avoided psionics, but recently I've decided I'm phasing them into my campaign. So they
They're
now
not
exist.
hard. They're really not that hard to run.
Not hard. They're not hard at all. The psionic combat can get tricky because, unlike regular combat, you got to do it segment by segment by segment, but it ends real fast
Mhm.
because to sustain psionic combat drains most of their side points, so they usually run out within 3 segments.
If they
Um,
haven't been using their side points on the disciplines, which are an absolute, they're a mixed bag of overpowered nonsense to game changing,
yeah, but the
assistant.
balancer there is the sheer rarity of getting psionics.
Right. That's
And
why I have my players roll for psionics without knowing they're rolling for psionics, because if they know they're rolling for psionics, somehow they use their psychic innate powers in the real world to affect the dice, and lo and behold, they have psionics.
so long as the dice were rolled in front of you, I don't care what powers they think they
If
used.
they don't know what they're rolling for, it's even better.
Yeah. Um,
Uh,
well,
Absolutely, I've never had a problem with doing that, because 9 times out of 10 when someone says I'm rolling for psionics and you're not like right on top of the dice, they miraculously roll 90 something.
Yeah, well,
And oh,
that
here comes Bear.
no.
Um,
Well, I'm adding psionics in because I mean, as you know, we're doing Night Below, and now they're in the Underdark where there are lithid and
Crap
stuff like
tons
that.
of psionic
Yeah,
entities.
and it's like, okay, this is the time to introduce it.
Hey Bear, what's happening? I want to ask you one last question before we hear what Bear is
Bear hates
chomping at the bit. Um,
Bear what?
Bear hates D&D. I don't even know why he joined this conversation.
Because I was invited to come hang out. I didn't know it was a D&D conversation. I'm
I didn't
sorry.
either. Honestly, I had no idea what we were going to talk about. I actually said, let's talk about our favorite hobbies, which we will segue into in just a minute. But I got to ask Sean, what's the highest level game you've run in AD&D?
In AD&D, I've had a character get to 13th level.
Okay.
He was the sort of the exception. The rest were in the 9th, 10th level. But yeah,
Was it like a druid or a cleric or a thief?
no, he was a thief. He was a thief.
Okay, so that makes sense. Did you like it or hate it?
No, I didn't mind it. It's the same. It's just the characters are more powerful, and the quests are bigger.
So you weren't really doing the domain, building castles and stuff?
They wanted to, and then the characters got wiped out, so it never happened.
Didn't matter. All righty. So Bear, how's it going this morning?
Good. I'm just killing some time having lunch before I leave for that job interview.
I'm sure you'll do fine. Just
Fingers
understand.
crossed,
Well, just understand that if it falls apart, maybe that's not as bad a thing as you might think.
Yeah, well, not having a place to live because I can't pay rent would be a lot worse. So I'm a side on the do my best, be my charming motherfucker self and see what I can pull off.
Sure, absolutely.
As opposed to, hey, fate, control everything. No.
No. If you did that, you'd be inclined to go in half-assed and not give a shit, and that's clearly palpable to the interviewer. I've
Absolutely.
done,
But there's a way to do it without being like, you can still give off that air of cool without coming across like you're just indifferent to everything.
Never let them see you sweat, and never act desperate. Never tell them anything more than what they ask for.
Oh yeah, God, don't volunteer information. Are you crazy? Never
Well,
volunteer.
depends on who you ask, but right. So so when I put that in the chat, not in the chat, in the description of the video, I was actually getting a little curious because we do these videos all the damn time, and all we ever talk about are role playing games, or sometimes someone will try to interject something that nobody else wants to talk about in the way of politics or current events. Not doing that either. I was curious, like what other hobbies either of you guys might have that we don't know about.
Once upon a time, now it's all D&D and Overpower.
Okay, well, Overpowers, is a thing. For those of you who don't know, it's a collectible card game that came out the 90s.
Yep, and they just rebooted it. I don't have any of my cards available. Otherwise, I'd flash one on the screen. They're all boxed up. But
so, did any of the cards I send you actually help out, or were they just like more?
Oh no, they were older cards. It was great to have dupes of them, and I gave a couple to some new guys who were getting into the game and they wanted some, so they went to a good home. That box you sent me, it is right here. That box you sent me was the true gift. These are in demand. People love this. It was an old deck box with the Wolverine on it, and I know so many people were looking for one. It's like, oh well, now I've got one too. Woo-hoo. Of course, I filled it with sleeves, but
right. And real quick, Daryl, from my personal understanding, I could be wrong, but it makes sense. Nice.
Like John Carter of Mars is Deja Thoris.
Is that like custom?
No, this is one of the official product.
Oh, okay. Now I have to have that because that's like one of my favorite Marvel comics of all time.
Merlin. It's not Marvel anymore. This is they did they got the Edgar Rice Burroughs license, so they did a set with Tarzan and John Carter of Mars. Deja is one of the characters.
Send me a link or something later. I just to see if that's something
like Chinese mythology. Here's Sun Wukong. The Time Traveler, H.G. Wells. So the idea is you build your team. It's just like, oh, here's Zorro, if you like swashbuckling. So you build your team just like you did with the Marvel game, but now they're using literary characters and stuff like that. Although there is they did get the Skybound license, so the Invincible and Walking Dead overpower cards are coming out later this year.
I had to nope out of Invincible after partway through the second season. It was just
Well, but the point is that's they're doing, so it's going to be these multiversal battles. But the first set was
that's
Ed
kind of
Rice
cool though.
Burroughs and the World Legends. So that refers to literary and mythological characters. So like
So we're going to see the Hobbit and
if they get the Tolkien license, yeah. They've got a Top Cow license. They've got the Skybound license, and they're going to do another World Legends set with the mythological and literary characters.
I was just looking at a Tarzan omnibus yesterday. It's not really it's not an omnibus. It was one of the big illustrated Tarzan graphic novel, whatever books put out a long time ago. But we'll see. Janet says, "Did they charge you a huge amount of money to pick up your package at the post office, Sean?"
For what? For the package you sent me?
Well, I don't know.
You sent it to my friend in Boston. He hand delivered it, so no.
Yeah, maybe she sent you something.
No, she sent me something a year or two ago.
She's specific.
Because fuck, if you listen, Shouty, you might actually get the context. Crazy, huh? Jesus Christ, brother. She sent me something, but she insured it. So when it arrived, Canadian Customs declared it had a value, even though it was marked as a gift. And they wanted to charge me $180 to fucking accept the package. So I said, fuck no, refuse delivery. And then by the time it got back to her, they had shattered it into a million pieces.
Well, I was actually reading her comment here. Did they charge you a huge amount of money to pick up your package at the post office, Sean?
She's asking because she had sent me one, Shadow, and she wanted to see if the same thing happened to Sean.
Right.
Context clues.
Yeah, no. So what happened?
Nowhere in there does she mention you.
I fucking give up. I give up. I'm talking to a fucking child. Holy fuck.
I'm literally going by what she said.
Well, what happened?
Go ahead, Sean. You try and translate, please.
Shadow sent me a package, but I have a friend in Boston, so he gave him my friend's address. He sent it to Boston. And then when I saw my friend a couple days later in person, he just hand delivered it.
Yes. But Janet was asking because she had previously sent me a package from the States to Canada. And when it arrived, because she had insured it, they wanted to charge me a bunch of money to accept the fucking package.
And how would I ever know that from what she said?
She's asking Sean if that's what happened to him because she was assuming you sent him the package directly from California to Ontario.
Right. I get that.
Okay. But no, why you're correcting me is what I don't get. I'm explaining and you're telling me, no, she said this. And I'm like, yes, I'm aware of what she said. Here's why she said it.
Okay.
I give up.
I couldn't possibly have inferred that from what she wrote.
Well, in any case, the answer would be yes. When I get shipments from the U.S., if they're over a certain dollar value, I get dinged with a duty fee. Yeah.
Same thing with I think it was New Zealand. I wanted to send something that cost $25.
No, we lost Shadow. There you are.
What happened?
You glitched and froze for a few seconds.
Oh, okay. That didn't happen on my end. And they wanted $75. It's just like,
Daryl, you're awesome. Thank you. No interviewer. Here's why you're fucking wrong.
I don't know that until I hear from Janet saying that is exactly what she was talking about, because there's no way I could have inferred that. But moving on, I'm not sending anything outside the States until shit gets back to normal, because like I used to be able to send like through the flat rate priority mailboxes. It didn't matter what was in it. It's just going to be this fee. No matter how much it weighs, if it fits in the box, it's this much, period. And now, the post office is adding all this other stuff, which absolutely makes no sense because they could do it before sight unseen. I mean, I could literally be sending, you know, solid lead. If it fit in the box and it weighed 200 pounds, it'd still send it for $27 or some shit. And if they could do it then, and now it's
Yeah.
completely different because why? It makes no sense.
We have a flat rate system here. It's only within Canada, and there is a weight limit as well.
Yeah.
You got to fit it in the box, but it also has to be under a certain weight.
And
Yeah,
no
because
one
it
on
was
eBay
always if it
is-
fits, it ships. Was the logo on the box? I still have some that say that, and mailing all the stuff that I did. Was it last month or was it this month? No, it was this month. At the beginning of this month, all the priority boxes and all the other things went out. It was really kind of fucked up though because priority means within 2 to 3 days, and literally every one of them took 5 to 7. It's like, so what am I paying for? Why why is it this price instead of just the level below that? But there's nothing you can do about that. I think they just have completely lost their damn minds with certain things because of other dumb things. They really shouldn't have any. What the hell is this symbol, Cool? I have no idea what that is. So, what about you, Bear? Other hobbies? What do you like? Do you have any that we might not
like
know about?
spores, molds, and fungus.
I have a feeling you're going to say that. So it's. Are you typing?
Yeah, sorry.
That's
That's
Sean. Sean's laptop is on his lap, and when he types, he beats his keys into the microphone, which he can't help. And as a result, I'm sorry. I apologize. You're talking to Sean. I shouldn't try and explain something with context. My bad, Shadow.
I was asking in general.
Shut the
Who
fuck.
was typing?
sorry. Yeah, that was me. I was just responding.
Daywalker. What?
I said sorry. That was me. I was just responding to him.
I had no idea. I couldn't tell who was making the noise or what it was. It sounded
Well,
like.
you notice when I talk, there's a little ring that goes around my symbol.
Yeah.
See, that's when you'll know I'm making the noise.
It was
Welcome to
actually
Context Clue Theater. Don't make that face. You started this shit with me. I'm just
Dude,
taking it to its
had
logical
every
end.
right to
That's
say
how
what
I.
I
That's
said.
how I
and
do.
was sticking to it.
I am a scorched earth motherfucker, and you know that.
Your name was not mentioned, so I had no reason to think that that's what she was talking about.
No, but you could trust that your friend maybe had knowledge you didn't have, and just accept the answer. As opposed
I was
to
waiting for her to. Thanks, Janet.
Janet
I was waiting
types
for her to
pretty
actually
slowly. You have to
verify either way. Okay, I'll check it
Else
out.
there's a delay. She sent you a photo, Shadow. Look at you. You're getting
Yeah.
photos.
I'm guessing it's. I asked her to do kind of the same thing. I need a new sign for the back there, and she offered to create one for me. And I told her,
She does great work, man.
yeah, that's. I saw one of the ones she did. Nice.
Yeah, I saw the pictures of the one she did for me, and sadly it was in pieces by the time I got back to her. Hey, Sean, guess what I get to do today for the first time?
Go out of the house.
No, I've done that before. I often go out of the house. Unlike you fucking
No, I'm a hobbit.
basement tracing
I'm
troll. No, I get to
I
ride
go
on the new light rail, the REM, for the first time.
Oh, I wasn't aware that Montreal installed one. Okay,
Yeah, they
cool.
put one in, and the station closest to my house, about a 15-minute walk away, goes right downtown. So if I get this job, I'm literally like walk to the station, 20 minutes, walk out, 10 minutes at the job,
Nice.
which would be really nice. Because otherwise, it would be take a bus, take the metro, it'd be about a 45 an hour of transit. Otherwise, on the old system. So I'm gonna check it out today, see how it works.
How long did they take to install that LRT?
Oh fuck, dude! It's supposed to be done in 2021. You know, and then COVID, oh
Yeah,
working outside in the open air, COVID bullshit.
We had the same thing. I don't know. Google the Eglinton LRT. It was
I've seen plenty of videos about it.
Yeah,
or the
3-year
Los
project
Angeles
that took
monorail.
12.
Anyone?
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a boondoggle! The absolute freaking retardation of my fellow statesman here is absolutely stunning.
I had the pleasure of living in Vancouver when they expanded their system back in the early 2000s, 2005, 2004, like right after the millennium, basically. It wasn't on time, but it wasn't as late as Montreal and Toronto by a long stretch, and it was good. Like when they were done, it was like fucking good. You know, like well done, guys. You know, we're here. I don't know. I'm gonna find out today how good a job they did with the most corrupt city in Canada.
Yeah, we're still fighting over that title here. I think it's all of them. I think it's going to be a flat out tie. Uh, Janet, I also never ended up editing my logo one day.
Yeah, Janet had said she'd do one of my logo, but I don't have one yet. I don't have one like fancy created. I just use images of some BX and OSE books.
Well, Janet, I'll tell you the best system for that would be to send it to April in Vermont. If you can guarantee it'll get there unbroken, send it to April, and then she can always bring it up to me some weekend.
Yeah, I found that the best way to do that is to literally insure it for an insane amount of money.
Yeah, but that's what causes the problems, because they see it's well insured, so therefore must have a high value. Therefore, you get dinged for the duty.
Yeah, but if she sends it to Vermont, it won't matter because
it won't matter. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's what I was.
Canadian. So basically, what happened is Canadian Customs lost their mind about 2-3 years ago, and they started charging import fees on shit that were not supposed to be, like books. We're not supposed to pay import on books. They're an exception. Nope, you'll pay fucking fees on them all the time.
Yep, it's
what they do is, like, let's say you buy a D&D book, right? Instead of classifying it as a book, they classify it as a game, and they tariff it as the game pricing.
Yep.
Such a bullshit. I'll be right back.
What do they do if you're bringing something over the border? Do they like go, hey, this looks like you're transporting cargo or anything like that? Like with you, Sean, when you brought the cards over.
Well, if I'm crossing the border, it depends. Like if I'm bringing my cards that I already own because I'm going to a tournament, then that's a non-starter, right? But when I bought the cards, it was through the Kickstarter, and the fulfillment happened before all of the tariff nonsense started, so I got in under the wire, right? And the duties, for whatever reason, didn't apply. We were looking at them because the duties were on and off, and the tariffs were on. It was this weird time. So, or in some cases, I just I go to a store that's already imported them and pay the fees. I just buy them local retail.
For example, like if you came to the United States and you came back over the border with like half a dozen or more books and games, in your backpack or luggage, would they?
Oh, I just declare. You got a personal exemption, so something like $400. So if everything I bought is less than $400, I just show them the receipts, and it's no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
And then if it's over,
then you pay the duty on the overage.
But what if just like your normal everyday stuff, like your shaving kit and things like that, are actually worth more than that?
Well, doesn't matter. It's not purchased there.
Not purchased.
Well, what if do they keep track of what you went there with, and then what would you come back with?
No, it's not like they do an itemized inventory.
Right.
There's the honor system. You make your declarations, and if they smell a rat, then they say, all right, open up your trunk. We're gonna check it, right? Yep. For the most part, it's like, do you have anything to declare? Nope. Right. Or I got this junk food, or I bought this at the duty free, and they're like, yeah, all right, well, have fun, go home, right?
So, want to see what I got from Free League today in the mail?
Sure, why not?
Bring it on.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Sorry, the things are so small.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. I was trying to see like how thick it was, to be honest. All right.
Not very big. It's not very big. It's got a weird spine to it. I don't know if it's. I haven't opened the. Looks like it's saddle stitched, but like in a weird way.
Maybe they're trying to reproduce an old timey sort of binding process.
Maybe. Don't know, but I'll find out because I'm gonna open it.
Well, Free League's known for high quality, isn't it?
They are. But this isn't them specifically. This is someone they're reselling, I think. So I got an email asking me if I wanted to review it, and I said, yeah, sure. Send me over a review copy. I'd love to take a look. And a week later, it's here. I'm actually kind of surprised at how fast they were. But they have looks like they have a Canadian warehouse now. So Free League, a lot of the stuff I get from Free League comes really fast, and I notice it all ships out of Etobicoke. So I think they have a warehouse up in Etobicoke there, Sean.
Yeah, it's quite possible. I wonder if they have an outlet attached to the warehouse for walking.
That I don't know. Be a whole lot cooler if they did. God damn, this is well wrapped. I don't want to hurt the book.
Just shrink wrap or?
Yeah, it's a shrink wrap, but it's a well done shrink wrap, and the book is soft. Like I don't want to hurt it. Okay, so that's the binding. Oh yeah, okay, so it'll lie flat. Oh, look at that. It'll lie perfectly flat when you open it. To a certain extent, you're gonna have to. But yeah, look at that. Cool. It's a role playing game that looks like it was done like an old timey newspaper. Again, your camera framing is weird, so I'll do that. But yeah, looks cool. I look forward to giving it a read. We'll see. A game about helter-skelter gunfights in gutter muck streets and dying 2 days later. Acid Western role-playing.
Okay.
I'll check it out.
That's one of the genres I've noticed lately that's I don't know if it's a temporary thing or whatnot, but it seems to be making a valiant effort to rise up the ranks in the favored ranks of the genres that are they're actually played.
What, Westerns?
Yeah. Over the past, I want to say about 5 years, westerns have been. It's like every game company tries to put one out, and I'm like, is that really is it viable? I mean, you're going to make any money doing that?
Ask the companies that are putting them out. Check the sales.
Because I don't know anybody who's playing them except some of Bear's friends, and Bloodworth is trying to run Deadlands, but I suspect that one's gonna, like so many others, not make it past the 3 or 4 month mark.
No, I'm running my game Damnation. It's quite fun. We only had one session so far, so we'll see. But so far, so
Right.
good.
It like I said, it's a hard sell. I've been trying to find the right group for a while, but I tend to be able to just shove it in, shoehorn it in, if you will, to other settings to get sort of that itch scratched, as opposed to going, it's going to be a Western, and then you get like 1 or 2 people interested, and that's about it. Yeah, Weird Frontiers. I did not like that one. I took a look at it, and
I don't know that one.
I think it's oh man, was it Troll Lord? I'm not sure.
Is it?
I honestly don't remember.
I have the Cthulhu one, Down Darker Trails.
Mhm.
It's not bad.
it seems to me though, if you're going to make a Western game, you kind of got to start with the basics before you start going into the really like oddball, like archetypes, professions, character classes, whatever you want to call them. You kind of got to get the bare minimums done first. And with Weird West, it's like they said, yeah, we're going to do exactly not that. You won't have your basic gunslinger and
Yeah, Weird Frontiers is made by somebody called Stiff Whiskers Press,
okay,
and he says it's based on DCC.
yeah, which
Already lost me right there.
right, same here. I own most of them. Most of them were gifts, except I did buy a bunch of the Lankmar stuff because it was on sale, but I didn't buy it for rules. I bought it for setting ideas. I'm a big fan of Grey Mouser and Fafford, all those stories, but the entire mechanics that they use for everything, just seven-sided die. No thanks. What's that?
Dungeon Master gave me this a couple years back. Blazing Sixes. So it's the Western based on, I think, the mini D6 or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that DM Scotty or somebody else?
James F. Keck. Does that ring a bell?
James Keck's a buddy of mine, actually.
Okay.
You'll see James's name in Heroic as well.
So, yeah, powered by Simple Sixes. I haven't played it. I haven't even looked through it yet, but it's a nice presentation. It's got that old style Western font with a little bit of staining to make it look like old parchment.
Nice.
That'll work.
There's stats in here for jackrabbits and little scorpions.
Yeah, Simple Sixes looks like it's like an easy 6 type thing. It's only 2d6 stat and skill and then modifiers. So it's not like D6 or mini 6 where you use the pool. This is just a 2d6, it looks like. Yeah, cool. Cool.
I never played, what was it? The TSR one, Boot Hill.
Me neither.
A bunch of my friends of mine when I was a kid, they were like, "Oh, we should play that. It should be fun." And it's like,
here's the thing: it depends on what you want. If you want a strategic, tactical, miniature war game, you play most of the versions of Boot Hill, first, second. If you want a role playing game, you got to get like third edition, I think it is, because literally first and second are the same thing, and it's just a board game war game. There is no. If there's any role playing in it, you gotta import it.
You bring it.
And I mean, there's about as much role playing in that as there is in Monopoly.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, you're playing a Western. You kind of want to lean into the role playing.
That would be the best part about it, because the actual gunfight
should be over.
That's going to be the climax of the entire campaign or game, because once it's over, there's going to be like 2 people standing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's it. It's brutal, as it should be, and it's going to be over with nowhere else to go. Other than move on to the next town and make new characters for all the people who didn't survive it. It's brutal.
Well, Daryl, Damnation's on my Patreon.
Damnation. Who's beeping? Is that me or you guys?
Shadow.
How so?
I don't know. Maybe it's not Shadow. I don't know. It's not me. I have all that notification for Discord turned the fuck off. So I hate when someone sends an audio clip or a video clip on Discord. I'm like, fuck, I gotta unmute this site, and I gotta remember to remute it when we're done listening to this. Fuck.
But yeah, Westerns are they're tough. They're tough.
I mean, I think it's like anything. You have to love the genre, and you want a familiarity with the genre too. So, especially out of the DM, and you get a little less. Like if I'm playing a fantasy game, then you have a lot to play with. It doesn't have to be realistic because it's a whole other world. If you're playing the Old West, there's still boundaries of verisimilitude you want to keep.
There are and there aren't. You can get around them if you
You
want.
can get around some, but there's still
If you're
gotta
doing
be
Weird West type stuff, absolutely you can.
there are parameters you want to hang on to, though,
and
to keep the feel of your plan.
Deadlands proved it. You can just rewrite the history from a certain point, and then
Yeah.
you're never wrong. So
But Deadlands, I'm not a fan of the Deadlands world, and here's why. Because I remember I picked up Deadlands when it first came out, and I
Same
liked
here.
it. But the thing I liked was that it said, most people don't believe this shit is happening. And you're like, oh, okay. But then you start reading it, and you go like, and shit's happening on every street corner. Fucking crazy guys are running around with ghost rock powered machines. How are people just stupid? Like, how stupid are these people that they're denying this shit is real? It's happening in front of them. Like, here's the bordello with vampires in it. What the fuck?
Yeah, especially the more books they put out.
Oh my
'Cause
god.
there are a crap ton of books for that game, and it eventually you just end up with Rift's Earth, but in the 1800s.
In the old West.
That's exactly what I don't want. I want those that small group of elite guys who know what's going on, and their tiny little network of people spread out throughout the states that also know what's going on, and they're secretly protecting those other folks, those zero levelers, from all the things that go bump in the night. And lo and behold,
Yeah, that'd make a great chill campaign. Playing members of Save in the Old West. That'd be kind
oh
of fun.
dude, oh, love that game. And uh, I can see it. I know that when I'm doing my Venture Brothers / Supernatural, I'm trying to do the backstory, the history of the grandparents. So I'm going, okay, well, we get to go back. How far back do I want to go to start the family tradition of hunting things? And I'm like, yeah, definitely got to go back at least the 1800s. Maybe that's where it starts. Coming across the Great Plains and bumping into crap, and this one family decides they're going to do something about it because so and so got killed, and now it's up to them to protect the growing country from all those wonderful cryptids and supernatural things.
Yeah, it sounds great. But as you say, it's like when they're releasing supplements where all this is happening on a daily basis on every street corner, and it's like, oh, okay. Now it's cast a deadly spell in the Wild West, or whatever you said.
Which is its own charm.
Mhm.
But what were you planning? What were you offering versus what do you deliver?
What do you deliver? Yeah.
If I offer you a superhero setting for my game and I say superpowers are rare like heroes, they're just starting. Most people don't believe they exist. And then I just fucking flood the world with NPCs, and I'm not giving you what I sold you. And that's what I always felt with Deadlands. They didn't give me what they sold me.
No, that's fair.
That's what was great about Supernatural and a lot of these other Kolchak, etc. They were that lone person or group, and everybody else thought they were crazy. That was part of the challenge. You can't just go shout it from the rooftops. You got to hold it in and be that sentinel that protects people from things they don't know they need protected from.
Having watched Kolchak, though, he was actually crazy too. So
Right, and he was trying to shout it from the rooftops, but you get my meaning. Nobody believed him except the Inquirer, and even then they didn't care.
It's like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. By the end of that series, how could anyone in Sunnydale, well, before Sunnydale gets swallowed into hell, spoiler alerts for 25-year-old fucking finale, how could anyone in that town not believe in vampires and demons by the end of that series?
But they did. They were like, there were points where even the average person was okay. Well, something is going on.
Yeah, but they didn't do it enough, and that was the problem, right? Because at some point, someone's making a call to the National Guard, and like, what the fuck?
Well, I mean, there was that plot line where the mayor was, of course, one of the big bads. And he was
and then there was the plot line that was horrible with Lindsay Cruz as the head of the secret government thingy, and it was bad.
Well, at least somebody in government knew about it. They were working on it.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you
Black
guys
Ops fucking science team. Yeah, the initiative.
Well, okay, I kind of got your opinion on that. What do you guys think about if you're going to run a game like that, actually having a group in the government at the highest levels that know and try to do something about all that.
Oh, I would absolutely do. They're not your friends because they're the government. They're literally
Right.
being.
They're trying to
And they're,
exploit it. Yeah.
How can we weaponize this? You know,
Yeah.
and they're there to they're from the government and they're there to help.
exactly. And they have their top men working on it.
Top man.
Top men.
Top men, yeah. And that's how that would work. And no, Daryl, there is no hard copy in the works. I got way too many projects on the plate to worry about doing a damnation hard copy right now. Maybe later, but not right now.
Would you go so far as to have like somebody in the topmost echelon, one of the bad guys, like a vampire or a lich or some shit like that,
Maybe,
or
maybe.
or would you just have it just good old fashioned human corruption?
I mean, both play evil, so you can go either way on that one. I think.
Whatever inspires.
So I'm a big fan of the movie Monster Squad, right?
That's a fun one.
And there's a great moment where the old man who's helping them is a survivor of the Holocaust. And he has a tattoo on his arm, obviously, right? He has his IBM fucking tattoo. And I think one of the little girls sees it and she's all that, and he just says it's a reminder that not all monsters, are creatures. Some monsters are human. You know what I mean? And I think I would want to keep that probably. I'd want that level of, no. The government guys, they're not run by aliens. They're not run by demons. They're not run by, their dark lord. No. They're just fucking evil humans who are just...
No lizard men. No lizard people.
No lizard people.
Yeah, it's
plot twist. The lizard person is in the organization trying to bring it down.
There you go. There's your plot twist. The lizard people are actually good people, and they're trying.
Well,
to
would they be trying to take it down or take it over?
What if they're trying to save humanity?
Yeah, they're trying to help.
What if the propaganda is telling you the lizard people are bad because these people that are on the internet shouting their heads off about lizard people are all disinformation agents, just like the UFO guys that were doing that we all know about now? What if? And then suddenly your characters learn, oh shit, we've been fighting these lizard folk and they're actually good guys and we've been hurting them. Shit, that's a moral flip. It's a good story.
The Silurians, if they were trying to actually help humanity, not wipe it out.
Yeah.
You mean from Doctor Who?
Yeah.
Well, they've actually the name's now in the public because it was NASA.
Silurian hypothesis.
The Silurian hypothesis is like, sorry, BBC, you lost the rights on that one. You didn't sue everybody that used the word Silurian hypothesis. You're done. It's in academia now. No trademark for you.
No great loss, really.
Of course, even in Doctor Who canon, the Silurians and humans eventually do come to an arrangement. So,
Thanks, Janet. Thanks.
Hit the dislike button.
Do people do that? I've never seen one.
what, dislike?
You've never gotten a downvote?
Yeah, they do it. Eventually, the numbers
precious.
yeah.
Pardon?
So aren't you fucking precious?
I've never seen one. That's why I asked. Maybe I have, but I've never seen one. If I've got one,
if I got like 10 or 15 on a video, I'd be like, okay, clearly this was a topic that triggered some people. I get 1 or 2. And I get them on weird videos, like videos where there's no reason to be upset about this. Why are you upset about this? It's like so strange.
There you
The
go.
only one I ever got.
Gotta check your analytics. I just gave you a gift.
What, Janet? Aw.
No, Shadow.
Shadow,
please give me a
downvote, buddy.
I give you a
You know what?
downvote.
I'm going to join you on that one. Hang on a second. Fuck your couch. There you go. Now your cherry's broken, buddy.
I sense I might have to delete this video.
Oh. Oh.
No, I don't know. I know you get notifications if somebody does like the heart or the like or whatever. And sometimes those go right by because I'm subscribed to so many different channels. But I've never gotten a notification that somebody disliked your video, and I don't.
No, they don't do that. And
I don't go back to look at them. But I know when we were starting out, I would check everything daily. It's me and Jack. Want to give them some news. Hey,
Well, you see the news system? You can't even see your likes and dislikes because you used to be able to go to your video page and at the very end was your like-dislike ratio.
Mm-hmm.
They've taken that away now, and now you have to go into the individual videos analytics to see what the ratio is. And then you have to click on the ratio to see how many. Why? What's the benefit to anyone now? How about getting rid of likes and dislikes? Just do that instead.
Because then they couldn't track it and they couldn't
Well, they can
use it
give a shit.
to
Likes and dislikes don't affect you. All they're there for is to show engagement. That's it.
Yep,
That's all.
yep, yep.
So
And they already
people
they
watching
already
your
tell
video
you,
engagement.
how long people are watching the video for and things like
Exactly.
that. And
It's
I
a,
don't know
it's
about
a,
you, but
what's the word? A relic. It's a relic of an earlier age.
there are a lot of people I watch their video, but as soon as they go into a certain part at the end, I'm out. I know what you're going to say. You're going to do the, whether it's the hit the like and subscribe at the end of the video, or check out my other videos, or I'll see you later. Some folks have like a 15 to 30-second outro speech that they go through every time, and like some people I'll let it go all the way just because I like their channel, but um, I'm amazed at how many people just nope out like halfway through a video. I'm like,
We
you
got to
know,
remember, even a 50% retention is really good.
mm,
And I think across YouTube, 20% is something the norm. So people have low attention spans, and the longer a video
well,
is,
they're
the more likely they're going to check out early. So if you've got a
right. Well,
long
yeah,
video of
especially
60%
with
retention, you're
long
actually doing
formats
well.
like this, nobody's sticking to the end. I know some people who do because they'll just put it on for background noise, like the
Right.
radio, which I do, all day long. As soon as I'm done here, I'll have my tablet within like 5 feet of me, and I just keep, playing videos to listen to stuff while I'm, doing things, unless I'm writing, in which case it's dead silence. And, you know,
Yeah. Well, retention is something that YouTube looks at, and
right,
you're out.
which makes sense.
Supposedly, like my average retention is in the 50-60% range, and it's like, all right, so but my impression count is really low. So it's one of those things I'm trying to figure out. It's like, okay, YouTube's telling me my videos should be successful, why aren't they pushing it more?
Well, because they pushing anybody's video is actually not in their best interest, because then they got to pay people.
Yeah, but then they earn money.
Well, they can earn money and not tell us about it.
They take
Here,
30% of everything I'm bringing in. So
here, see if this holds any interest for you guys, right? Acid Western role playing. Life is utterly mundane for most of the Lost Frontier's inhabitants without a semblance of supernatural or fantastical. Ghouls and goblins are stories told around the fire, nothing more. Believing otherwise makes you a superstitious fool in the eyes of society. But the weird is out there, and the PCs are more than likely to step right in it. In that sense, the acid Western differs from the weird Western. Rather than the strange being a constant and undeniable presence of the setting, it acts as a contrast to the everyday and the mundane. It's not uncommon for a story to begin somewhere completely ordinary and then turn progressively bizarre. In fact, it is to be expected. The fantastical should feel fantastical. If everything is weird, nothing is. For that reason, you won't find a bestiary of supernatural creatures in this book. That's not to say vampires, wizards, or trolls don't exist, but they do so within the confines and the contexts of the adventures and scenarios that directly involve them. No two ghosts should ever be expected to play by the same rules.
Okay.
I respect that design philosophy a lot.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I can't remember who it was who said it, but they said you should treat all your monsters in D&D like Greek myths. There's one of them.
it's not a terrible philosophy.
Yeah, but it doesn't work for a lot of the tropes.
It doesn't work for dungeon crawling bullshit, but it can
Well,
work for overland adventuring.
It definitely works for more fantastical and unique monsters, but you do want common races like goblins.
Right, which like
But goblins aren't monsters anymore. You know what I mean?
they should be though.
But they're not. They're just a race. Anything that's a race shouldn't be considered a monster.
Right. For the most part, I do that in my current D&D game. Uh, Whatever it is in the way of monster, unless it's like a sea serpent, because it's an aquatic campaign. You're only going to run into them once. They've only run into one beholder, and they probably won't ever again. Basilisks, same thing. Anything that's like really cool like that. It's going to be a one and done. I don't do orcs, goblins, kobolds, any of those things. They won't run into them. They never have. because they're just not on the planet. They got flooded out, and all the other things, because if I keep doing that, especially like with the giants back in the day and trolls and ogres and things like that, they were just big dumb uh, chunks of experience points waiting to get siphoned into the player character sheets. So I never did that, and um, if I did keep doing those things, it took away from the ability to like have them encounter a new monster. There are hundreds and hundreds of monsters in just the three AD&D monster books, and there's a whole crap ton more in Dragon Magazine and up in my head. And if I keep relying on the same old, let's do another troll encounter or let's do another this encounter, that takes away from the ability to mess with them with some brand new thing. How many times, uh, you know. There are a crap ton of monsters in those books that I know in my campaign. Everybody said I have never run into one of those ever before.
Well, I think that
Like
the idea is to say, instead of saying a basilisk, the basilisk.
right. Well,
And then you, as the GM, can jump its power up a little bit, and they'll start to learn as they survive encounters. Oh, shit, when we run into the roper, it's not, whatever a roper, it's going to be more intense. It's going to be more deadly. So we can't rely on our old, out of character omni knowledge, and we actually have to encounter this thing properly.
well, my players learned early on that every monster in the books I've already tweaked to some extent, and in some cases, like for basilisk, they might run into like three or four. I don't know if they've ever done that yet, but it might be a small colony of this, or like maybe it's three Medusa, but they're never going to run into them again, because sometimes one isn't really a challenge. It's just like, uh, you know, they're just going to do the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, slash X Men against Magneto, one big cool monster and like seven dudes just you know, and they make short work of it. So I'll throw two or three of whatever, but that's it. They're never going to run into them again because next week it's going to be something new.
Yeah,
Then
fair.
your game becomes monster of the week. But yeah, I mean, it's not an unreasonable philosophy.
Yeah, I'd
I,
rather do
I,
that than more giants. Oh, it's more trolls. All right, everybody, break out your torches.
I think the
Let's do
real
maneuver X3. Bullshit. No,
the real
you
variety
don't
comes
have
in
to
how
go
you
with
play
this.
them. It's like not every troll tribe is going to be the same, and if you role play them differently, if they actually interact with the groups instead of okay, they jump out and attack, then you'll get a whole lot of variety out of that, and you get a lot of mileage. We had once we had an ogre encounter with the group, and the ogre was solo alone, having been ejected from its tribe, and the group actually befriended it. And the reaction rolls were high enough that the ogre just kind of tagged along with them, and it became the new tribe. And they're like, okay, what do we do? And over time, the ogre's alignment shifted from chaotic evil to chaotic neutral, and because he was seeing a different way of looking at things, so it became interesting as
I did the
opposed
same
to
thing with Jackie when he and I were playing, getting him into the hobby. But I did the half ogre thing because I wanted to try it out as an NPC, and that worked out. That was fun.
yeah. So I mean, half of what happens can be in how you play it too.
Hmm.
We got a Medusa introduced into my OSE campaign. I don't know if you're up to date on the recaps, but and it was just random encounters. So these two Medusae, and they killed one and forced the other to surrender. Then they ended up making a deal with it. It's like I didn't see that coming at all. So now there's a Medusa floating around, hiding around near the keep on the Borderlands that anybody can potentially encounter.
I had a couple months back, the party bumped into a beholder, and they were in the process of making a deal with the beholder, and one of the characters, being a thief, had to what the beholder was showing
Try to
him.
pick its pocket.
No, the beholder was showing him its little treasure trove because it was going to trade this item for that item. And as soon as the thief saw the little box, like locker, if you will, open up, and he had his stuff hanging, so he could get to it instead of it being on the ground. Um, and as soon as he opened that, the thief, teleported behind him because he had a ring of teleport or some shit. Backstabbed him, didn't kill him, and then the beholder proceeded in destroying, like, I kid you not, like 20 magic items throughout this giant party of people because of its, you know, anti magic whatever. I don't know if it was 20, but it was a crap ton of, you know, kind of important magic items because they all failed their saves, and what they got in return was pitiful. You know, it's just like, you fucked up,
Players will keep it interesting.
right?
But that's great. That's the kind of decision that I want players to make. That just complete chaos, and you made a choice, and there are consequences. It's beautiful.
Yeah, the fucked up part was that the player who lost the most wasn't the thief, so he screwed over one of the other party members big time.
That'll
Uh,
happen sometimes.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Players
Bear,
are.
what time is your appointment?
4:30.
Oh, you got some time, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna bounce there probably the next 25 minutes. You know, have a shower, trim up all this, and then I'm actually gonna go down early just because I haven't been downtown in years. So I'm gonna go down early and just wander around a little bit before I, make my way there.
You get your outfit all picked out, that sort of thing.
I'm doing business casual, buddy. I never dress nice for these things because it's like I'm not going to be dressing like this if you give me the job. So I might as well show you what you're getting up front, and rely on personality, experience, and charisma to get me through, as opposed
Yeah.
to false sense of class.
I mean, so long as you're presentable, you're not showing up in torn jeans and.
No. I'm wearing my black pants, my nice black golf shirt. Looks good. Looks real good.
As you say, what they would expect you to show up in at work, not a 3-piece suit, unless the 3-piece suit is the requirement for work, in which case, okay, fine.
Right. I'll find out if they say, "Hey, this is a business formal." I'll be like, "Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was business formal. Allow me to reconsider everything you just said."
Yeah, especially if you have to go buy a new wardrobe for the job. That is.
I had one place I got hired. This 10, 15, no, maybe 20 years ago. They hired me. And the first thing they did was give me, they cut me a check for $800. And I'm like, what's this for? They go, we'd like everyone to have a nice wardrobe when they work here. So here's $800 to go get yourself a nice wardrobe. I was like, 800.
I've never
I spent
ever.
that much money on clothes in a decade. What are you talking about?
Right?
And I saw everybody was dressed. It was like, oh, you want a nice wardrobe. Okay.
If they're paying.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a choice, and I went and I did it, and I got a nice blazer and a couple of really good shirts and some nice ties and some good pants and a nice pair of shoes. Problem is, it's because I'm so big, I pay premium for everything. Size 15 feet, buddy. Shoes ain't cheap for me, baby. I'm always admiring the people who can go to Walmart and buy $25 sneakers. I'm like, what's that life like? What's that world feel like?
It feels poor.
Yeah, well, I'd like to, because I have to literally go through hell and high water to get footwear.
You mentioned ties. I have a nice selection of ties, or say, I had a nice selection of ties. Now Jackie has a nice selection of ties. I haven't worn a tie. I used to wear one on the show when I would host gatekeepers or table breakers, because they always showed up like looking like slobs, and I'm like, come on, let's class this up a little bit, and that didn't go over well at all, and I still did it anyways. But after that, Jackie started wearing them, and now I have to go into his room if I need one, like for tonight's concert, where the school band, it's I don't know. It'll be fun, but I he's been taking trumpet for a year at school, and it was a weird choice, I thought. But I've only heard him play like twice. I hear him play on the keyboards. You guys probably heard him on keyboards because it's right outside the door, and he does that, all the time. Just decides at a random time he's gonna, play half a song and then go do something else. But I've only heard him play his trumpet twice at home and once in the first concert, and he's not bad. But I'm glad he doesn't do that here, because that's freaking loud, and
That's probably why he doesn't do it there.
Yeah, yeah.
When I was in high school, I played the viola, and I was always self-conscious about playing it at home for practice. It was noisy and squeaky and off key, and I hated it. I couldn't imagine what everybody else in the house thought.
Meanwhile, over at Shadow's house. Oh my god!
If I wasn't streaming, it would be fine. I would have no problem with it. But
Throws open the door. If you get near a song, play it.
hmm hmm
Yeah, nothing is more tedious than listening to someone practice when they have no skill yet. So they're just doing scales or whatever, and it's just like,
Right.
oh Jesus, this is tedious, you know.
But at the same time, you can't say anything because they're learning, and
Yeah, they know they have to, and it's a thing. But just being a victim, it's like, oh, I guess I'll be going for a walk.
I think it's different when it's your own kid, and you're just like, yeah, just keep doing that, just keep doing that. Because I can't say or even feel anything negative because I'm paying for it. So keep doing it. I'm just wondering, when he graduates next week, I think it uh, is that just going to be a thing of the past, or is he going to be like, hey, can you give me a trumpet? His birthday's coming up, and I'm like, well, I guess, you going to really pursue it? We'll see, I guess. Because
Shadow,
he's
completely non sequitur question: how far are you from San Francisco?
hundreds of miles.
Hundreds of miles. Okay. No, I'm
I'm
just kidding.
hundreds of miles.
Further non sequitur question: how far are you from Texas?
I
Over
asked
1,000?
about San Francisco because my niece and nephew moved there, and
Oh wow!
just curious because obviously I might be visiting at some point. I'm just curious how close you are.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it would be cool to hook up, have dinner or
Remember to
something.
put some flowers in your hair, buddy.
Yeah, we've got a relative who is like a SF police officer, and he's the one who sold Jackie his new car, and he might be actually moving to Palmdale. So uh, we'll see how that goes. But I can't. It's weird, because his parents are Mexican, and he is very right wing. Just saying. So I can't imagine how that's working out for him there. You know, but
Because
he's a good kid. But
I'm confused. What is the relationship between?
oh, because it's kind of a uh, it's Frisco. It's
Oh, San Francisco. Yeah, yeah. The city.
yeah, it's a mess. And they're going to expect a certain. They're going to look at him. They're going to see his last name and expect a certain attitude, and then find out. Maybe that's why he's moving out here. Plus, the property is much cheaper. But on his way to having, I think his second kid. That whole side of the family, I kid you not, have had in the last 5 years between three people, they've had like 12 kids.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Make
yeah,
up for people like me who have none.
and Bear. Well, that you know of.
I think I have one. There's a very good chance I have one from college. But her
Yeah,
mother did poorly, and she literally said to me, "If this child is yours, you will never see it." To which I went, "All right."
that's a fucked up thing to hear.
No.
So I was 19. All right. Well,
You
thanks.
know, when I was like almost exactly that age myself, I had a one night with someone, and like 9-ish months later, she had a boy, gave him the same name as me, and I never saw them again either. Everybody said, "Oh no, it's not. It's somebody else. It's so and so." It's like, yeah, how do you know? I mean, it could have been just a matter of days between me and the next guy. You know what I mean?
Right. Well,
And I'm just like,
a
yeah,
paternity test will clear that up. Get the swab. I actually had I guess, a fraternity test done a number of years ago. I have a half brother, and we had to confirm his the biology. But my father went and sired another after he left our family. So I was like, all right, well, I was only pissed because they never bothered telling us about him. Like he grew up nearby, and then when he became an adult, he moved away, and we didn't find out about him until later. It was the whole family knew and didn't bother to tell me or my sister. Right?
From just saying, from your old man's perspective, I could totally see never telling my kid. If I had other kids, it'd be like, no, you're it. That's it. You're just you. You know, I
Well,
would lie,
it's not
cheat,
just him though.
steal.
It wasn't just him; it was everybody in the family. They conspired to keep the
Yeah,
information from me and my sister, and it was like, "Fuck you!" Right? We could have known we had a little brother, right?
I'm gonna go, guys. I'm gonna start getting ready, have a shower, all that fun stuff. So,
All right. Good luck, Bear.
Thank you. Thank you kindly, guys.
I will
Talk
see
to you
you
later.
later. Good luck. I'm sure you won't need it.
We'll see.
But you know,
Listen,
like,
if I was 45, I'd be like, I'm good. I'm 55. A lot of people don't want to hire you when you're over 50. You know, it's just the way it is. They just go, oh, you're old. So we'll see. Bye.
take care, man.
All right, he's gone. We can talk D&D again.
Yeah. What was the other thing I wanted to ask about?
Well, we never did. I popped in to talk about the weapon type and the armor and the online experience, was what you originally asked about. The problem I found, sorry, mostly over this cough, but every once in a while it triggers. The problem I had playing online was you need, for AD&D, if you really want to do it right, you need to use the 3-foot squares instead of the 5-foot squares, because the movement rates are arranged around the 3-foot squares. For combat and stuff like that, your per segment movement, all of that works better on the 3-foot scale, which is what the DMG suggests. But that also means you need a bigger map, right? Because now you need 3 squares for a 10-foot area instead of 2 squares, 2 by 2.
Sure.
And the problem we had is Roll20, at least at the time, I haven't looked into it recently, but couldn't handle big maps. It slowed the game right down because the processing power was diminished. So that was a big problem running AD&D to do it right. I've been looking into Fantasy Forge to see, because they can handle bigger maps, but not looking really hard because I don't play online. I play in person. Once all the pandemic stuff was behind us, I never looked back. I ran my 5e game online because I had remote players. I had my friend in LA who was playing, a friend in Oklahoma, and a friend in Detroit. So obviously we can't play in person regularly. But when that came to an end, it was like, nope, we're back to in person. I got my OSE and I got my my AD&D. But with regards to weapon type, it's really easy. Just make sure your players have their track on their character sheet, so they all have to do is refer. So just treat it as you've got your armor type and your final armor class. Those are 2 different numbers. Your final armor class is the full defensive value. Your armor type is the baseline. So if a thief is wearing, if your character's wearing chain, that's armor type 5. If they got a shield, that's armor type 4. Right? If they only have a shield, they have no armor, that's armor type 9. Things like that. And then all you do, you don't have to tell your players the final AC value. You just say, okay, you're hitting armor type 7. Go ahead and consult your chart, and then they'll tell you if you got a bonus or penalty. So it's actually that's the only extended step. It's not really that complicated. And for weapon speeds, a lot of people think you got to use weapon speeds for everything. It's like, no, weapon speeds in first edition at least only come into play if there's a tie. If a tie's initiative, because then you got to start comparing. And you're tied against somebody else with a weapon speed. Like if you're fighting a monster with natural weapons, there's no weapon speed, so the tie doesn't matter. But if you're fighting another creature with another weapon, or, so a soldier versus an orc or whatever, then you compare your weapon speeds, but only on a tie to see who goes faster or who potentially gets bonus attacks. Because if you're twice as fast or 5 point difference, 5 point faster, then you get a bonus attack before you get your regular attack, which is huge. Players love it. Especially the guy running the monk, whose weapon speed is 1 when he's open-handed. So he's almost always getting free attacks on a tie. And then the other thing is weapon speed only applies when you're comparing if you're attacking a spellcaster while they're casting. And that's the only time you need to do it. So it's actually very simple because you ignore it until that factor triggers, and then you calculate it. I got a whole I'm it's coming out this summer. I've got basically a 10-part series breaking down AD&D 1A combat. It's the first video alone is just talking surprise. It's 25 minutes long.
Wow, that's hardcore, man.
Well, I mean, and it's just what I said earlier. With AD&D, I keep talking to people who are like, well, I don't use this, or I don't use X, or I don't use Y. It's like the more you excise from the baseline system, the less fulfilling it is. Like I found when you add in all the little nuances, even if it slows the mechanics down a little bit, it gives you a whole different experience than other role-playing games. Something that I know a lot of people don't do, a lot of people do as well, is randomized targeting in combat. You don't get to pick who you're going for. You got to roll randomly to see where your opening comes. And it's such a great system. And now it's
Hold on a second. If I'm facing off against somebody, I'm facing off against them.
If you're facing off against one person, that's different. But if you got there's a wizard casting a spell and he's got 2 bodyguards and you're in melee, you don't necessarily get to target the wizard because that's not necessarily where the opening is going to come.
Yeah, I would think that just by spacing, or and mind you, I don't use any sort of grid or anything like that when I'm playing online. It's all theater of the mind and index cards. I'll maybe draw, a rough map here. Here's where you are. Here's where they are, and people tell me, what they're doing, and I'll, let them know if they can or can't, get into that position, things like that. It's rough because I don't have the ability to have a camera facing down on a table
Right.
in a grid. If I did, oh my god, it would.
I
would be,
theater of the mind. It's even more important to use the random targeting. Now, the random targeting is kind of controversial because it's based on a little line in the DMG that says it's impossible to target specific characters in mass melee or something like that. So it really comes down to how do you define mass melee.
right. I would think that it's got to be, at least 10 on a side.
And that's not an unreasonable description. I personally go with if there's 3 or more, because here's what the effect is, and this is why I love the randomized targeting, is it gives characters like wizards and monks and thieves that extra ounce of protection in combat because okay, you're playing a wizard, you got your cleric buddy, you got your warrior buddy, you're all facing down an enemy. The enemy at a baseline only has a 1 in 3 chance of targeting you. That means you can actively participate.
Right, but
right?
here's my problem. I've run into that a few times where a let's say like a larger critter, and the parties managed to surround that that creature.
I know what you're talking about.
And now you're randomly rolling to see what it attacks, and for whatever reason, it suddenly randomly decides to roll and hit the guy who's never hit, who's like maybe on a flank, and keeps swinging and missing, and then suddenly the creature decides to go after that or someone who
But that's a part of things. Like, if a creature, especially an animal creature, is surrounded and people are poking at it from all sides, it's not going to know where to go. It's gonna spin. It's gonna turn on.
That totally makes sense. But when it's a semi or even completely intelligent creature, it should probably, in my opinion, go after whatever's hurting it the most.
It might. You never know the motivation. A smart creature will know that the unarmored one is a wizard. I got to get rid of him. He's really it could be trouble.
Yeah, well, a wizard shouldn't be anywhere within weapons range.
Well, it's if it happens, yes. In an ideal situation, they don't. But further to that, but the point of the randomization, why I love it, is it creates that chaos of the battlefield, that variability. And it also partially justifies the 1 minute combat round, which is something else a lot of people have trouble getting their heads around.
Right.
It's like, why am I only attacking once in a minute? It's like, well, no, you're not attacking only once.
It's not attacking.
Yeah. Well, you're attacking. Attack as many possible chances you can in that minute. But what during the one attack you get represents your opportunity and opening that has presented itself for a clean hit. That's what that one represents. Right. And to further that, you never know where an opening is going to come. So if you're facing down, you're soul warrior facing down 3 guys, they're not just standing there going hit me. They're defensive.
Oh,
They're
absolutely,
protecting their guy. They're moving.
right.
You're
But
ducking, you're weaving.
if the lone target, by changing its targets, would open itself up, I think that there's a really good chance that it's not going to do that. If it's
It might
gonna
not have
open
any choice, right? It's like, if you've surrounded an enemy, being surrounded is bad news in any situation. So, okay, even if you're semi-intelligent and okay, well, I've got these guys poking me, these guys have the armored guys, you are always turning your back on somebody, right? And you never know. And again, the characters aren't static. So while the creature is fighting, it's snapping at you, it's snapping at your buddy, and it's snapping at the wizard who happens to be behind it because that's where it's safest. And suddenly it turns, just wheels around because it's in motion too, and it happens to get an opening shot on. It turns to face the wizard, on not ideally putting the warrior who can hit better on its back. So things like that can happen, and it best sort of gives you that chaos experience of combat, which is never so orderly. Like you look at 5th edition where it's so orderly. You get your initiative order, and it's like, well, okay, character A can do an action, a reaction, a possible bonus action. They can move exactly this length of distance, and it's also perfect. Whereas what I love about first ed combat is it changes every round. How far you can move before you can act is based on how close the initiative rolls are. If you roll a 6, it means you're winning initiative, and I roll a 1. You've got 5 segments. That's 30 seconds before they can react. That's huge. Whereas,
absolutely.
Or you roll only 1, you're charging. You've got 1 segment of initiative. You're charging in, but you only get 1 segment's worth of movement. You don't quite reach before they unloose those arrows. That can make the difference. So that's what I love about that system, and the randomized targeting is a part of that. And I think that's why it's important to consider all the elements of combat. It really makes it fun. And now, if you're theater of the minding, there's a new term, theater of the minding. If you're using theater of the mind, I think the randomization is important too, because you don't have it all laid out. When you have the grid, you can see the positioning, which is important for thieves and fighters, who are flanking and things like that. But the thief is like, well, I want to sneak around and get behind the wizard. But if you don't have the full visual, it's like, okay, how are we going to play this out? You can have the thief going in, and then suddenly the thief, he got to the wizard, but the wizard's bodyguards are there. It's like, all right, well, you don't necessarily get to target the wizard, but we'll roll randomly. 1 and 3. You did target the wizard. You got an opening. Get in there, right? Or nope.
Yeah, but couldn't they just say, "Oh, well, I wait. Then I'll wait until I can get the wizard."
But that might never come, because that's the point of the randomized targeting.
That is the option. They're that's the con they're taking with the possible pro.
Then you can counter by saying, "Oh, they see you're waiting for that opening, so the 2 bodyguards close in." Right, they're reacting to your choice. Whereas
I kind of also like the idea that if your solitary intelligent monster is attacking somebody and he freaking just wails on one guy, right? And that guy, let's say he takes like 15, 17 points of damage, that he would be able to kind of gauge is like, hey, if I do that again, that guy's dead. I'm going to do that again versus take my chances on something else.
But the guy you're wailing on isn't also necessarily going to say, well, I'm just going to stand here and take it. They're doing their thing.
Sure.
They're weaving, and they're attracting the attention of that creature so the others can flank. And the smart creatures, oh shit, they're flanking me. I'm going to be in trouble. Now, part of the randomized thing, now this is something I've added, and I'll go over it in my video because I think you might appreciate it, is so combat in engaged range, in AD&D is the 10 foot. So if you're within 10 feet, and I had to start thinking about how does this practically apply, because what if I've got 2 enemies, they're still within an engaged range, but they're in the exact opposite side. Like if I go closer to one, I'm moving out of range of the other, that kind of thing. So what I came up with is this idea that, okay, well, 10 feet, if 10 feet is 3 squares, you can move 2 squares, right? So you move 2 squares. So you also get a 2 square, this morphed into it, and this is not in the rule books, this is something I came up with, but you get a 2 square free adjustment. And that really makes combat dynamic, because then what you can do when you're using the minis is you can reposition yourself advantageously. So it's like, oh crap. So my opening comes to this creature. So you can do a 2 square adjustment so long as you land anywhere within your striking distance or weapon reach of that creature. So what we see in practice on the board is players and enemies, monsters, jockeying. It's like, oh, well, this guy's trying to flank me, so I'm going to use my 2 square movement to get over here so I can target the guy I like, while the other guy has to continue to reposition. And it works really well. And
then you get more of that back and forth sort of
right. The
sword
battlefield
fight kind of
completely changes everything. Like, so many times you're playing, if you're playing 5th ed, the minis barely move. Everybody gets in their fighting position and they just stay static for the whole combat. Whereas if things are randomized and you get players who need to constantly change the position to keep an advantage, the whole battlefield is completely different by the end, and I love it.
Which is funny, because anybody who's played long enough should understand that keeping the party together in a certain formation
is huge. Yeah.
Versus mind you, I'm in a CNC game, and a while back we had a paladin and a cleric, and they would both freaking run up ahead in like almost completely different directions.
Oh yeah, well, that's players being individuals.
And I'm like, okay, I'm watching, and everybody's like, "What?" It's like, I can't hit you. I am not moving up into melee range as I'm playing an assassin or a thief or whatever, and I've got a short bow, and I will need a 20 to hit anything above an armor class X, and I stand a good chance of hitting my friends, so I'm watching. I literally sat down on a wagon cart and I'm watching. And they kept doing it. And like, why aren't you doing anything? Because you keep being a dumbass, running off ahead, denying me any chance of a backstab or anything else without literally throwing myself into melee, which is not something I'm supposed to do with an armor class of this and 8 hit points, blah blah blah.
Right. You're playing a thief or a monk. Yeah, you need to blindside. You need to get off. To duck aside.
And same with the magic user. He and I would literally just literally be sitting on the wagon watching the fight, having a chat. It's like
have your characters in game, buy a set of dice, and it's like, so Bones, yeah, sure, let's play.
And eventually that paladin left the party because we kept questioning on him on like we the first time it started we ran into some grave robbers,
right?
Okay, and we killed them, and they had a bunch of treasure. They robbed from the grave. And the paladin was saying, "Oh no, we get to keep that.
Oh, it's our loot. It's our spoils." It's like, okay, well, you are no longer a paladin. That's an act. That's a chaotic act. You've broken the law. You now have to.
Nobody saw it that way, but me and Coco. Everybody else is like, "No, we get the treasure, we get the XP, blah blah blah." I'm like, "How are we any different from the grave robbers?"
Yeah.
Well, because we stopped them. Well, should we return it? How are we going to find out who that belongs to? I don't know. Take it back to town and ask.
That's just it. That's on the DM. 100%. You gauge the performance. Now, personally, as a DM, I wouldn't tell the players this, but they do the right thing, return the stuff, or return it to the authorities and say this was robbed from the grave. We want to account for it, whatever. They would get the equivalent in for that loot, right? That's how I do that personally. But I wouldn't tell them that. They have to make the choice. But the moment the paladin decides, oh, well, I'm keeping this loot graves, you've broken the law. You're no longer a paladin. Now, by committing a chaotic act, you can redeem yourself. You have to do your Hail Marys and whatnot. But it's like, yeah, guess what? You're no longer a paladin. Enjoy. It's like, watch.
I mean, how do you not see that? Right? I mean, I don't know. It's... Paladins are tough, man. I like running them. I like having them around, but
they're only tough. They're only tough when you come with a player's mindset of I'm trying to win, and this is an obstacle. All these rules and regulations are an obstacle to me getting what I want, right? As opposed to I want to play the paladin and just embodying the belief systems and applying that as a filter to your choices. That's where most people get it wrong, because they're trying to win the game, and they have this, they want to achieve their objective, and they believe that they should be able to do it any way they want. It's like, well, fine, but if it conflicts with the paladin's moral code, you're done.
I, I think my biggest problem is actually GMs that say yes, you can play a paladin, and I'm like, oh, who's in the party? Oh, we got a druid, we got a thief, we got a magic user, a cleric of a different faith, and a couple of fighters.
Um,
Why are
I,
you there?
I don't mind that, but you have to understand that there will be inter-character conflicts, and choices will eventually have to be made.
You think?
I have a thing with my Night Below series, because we're into book 2 now, and they've got there's a character they rescue at the end of the first book. This is in the module. He's a lawful neutral dwarf named Snagger, who offers his service for the rescue for a year, right? Or at half share or whatever. So he's joined, and the paladin immediately took him, right? And he's like, all right, lawful. He's got a henchman. He's thought nothing of it. He doesn't know. Now the paladin doesn't know he's the dwarf is lawful neutral. I don't just give out. They don't stamp their alignment on their foreheads. But it's coming that it'll eventually be revealed that he's not of good alignment, right? He's lawful, but he's neutral. Paladins are not allowed to have henchmen or hirelings who are not of good alignment, right?
What do you think about the no alignment or detect evil being uh, unallowed against player characters by player characters?
What do you mean unallowed?
I've read somewhere that player characters can't do that to each other.
I think if the players within themselves want to make a pact that, hey, we're not doing this to each other, that's their business. But as a DM, I simply adjudicate the choices they make. So I do not.
I'm pretty sure we had this discussion that there's somewhere in one of the books where you can't do it to your fellow players. Like maybe it's
Well,
the
there's
paladin
there's
detect
an
evil.
etiquette. There's a mention somewhere in the books about it being an etiquette. It's considered rude or impolite or whatever. It's a societal thing. And I'm like, well, that's fine. I'll play that. If somebody's studying me and going, okay, what are you doing? Then let the players react how the players will. As a DM, I'm simply arbitrating their choices. So if a player casts no alignment on another player without his permission, and then he reacts, it's like, then that's for them to play. I have nothing to do.
And how would the not the caster, but how would the other character know that that's happening?
Well, again, you play you describe the things. Somebody's studying you don't know what's been cast, especially because it's got like no alignment, has a 1 turn duration. Often what they'll do, the players have learned that they'll precast it before they have an interaction. They'll go into the room, and then they just sort of look at people. It's like, what are you looking at? Nothing, right? So I just let the situation play out as organically as
Or
possible.
the paladins at will detect evil suddenly becoming not so at will because the GM's getting tired of that
Oh,
happening.
I encourage them to use it liberally. The thing about with detect evil, and this is right in the DMG, is it's not just a catch-all. It doesn't catch everything that's evil. There are certain markers. There has to be evil intent in the immediate, future, like somebody's planning to stab somebody in the back or whatever. But somebody, okay, an evil character, an evil 0 level, just sitting there having a beer is not going to radiate evil. A character or creature has to have 8 hit dice before they radiate their alignment. Right, that applies to everybody, even goblins. You look at goblins are generally evil, but it's not an absolute truth. There are lawful evil is the general alignment for the species, but that's not going to be true in individuals. But even you're sitting, you've got an evil goblin who's just sitting there smiling at you, not planning or doing anything. The detect evil gets you nothing. Supernatural will always radiate evil, so undead, whatever level, except for obviously skeletons and zombies because they're neutral anyway. They're automatons, but. So yeah, I mean, players will use it all the time, and I encourage that. It's like that's one of their tools. They take the ability, that's part of their toolkit. It's telling nerfing detect evil because the player's overusing it is like telling a ranger you're no longer allowed to track. It's giving you too much information.
I totally agree. Now here's one for you though. This one is the one that I think Gary should have got his ass kicked over. Where in the magic item description under the poison potion, the GM is encouraged to lie basically and tell the player that it's not poison, that it's something else.
That's one of the unfortunate things in the DMG where there's a tone of player versus DM, which I absolutely 100% agree with. I or disagree with, in terms of playing it. It's like I won't give them more information than I need to, but neither will I try to screw them over when they're taking necessary precautions.
Or literally lie, because that's
Yeah,
what he's saying.
no.
It's like if and I've seen this happen. Back when I was like a young teen as a DM for hire, a DM would say, "Oh, you find a superheroes and potion. Oh, okay, I take the superheroes and potion. Make a saving throw, huh? Make a saving throw. Okay. Oh, I failed. Oh, you're dead. What?
Right. Well, I wouldn't tell them like you find a potion. I'm not telling you. I'm not telling
Well,
you
after it's
what
been
that potion
identified.
is.
After it's been
Right.
identified.
But now what might happen is some asshole might have mislabeled it in context. You see a potion that says superheroism, it's like, oh sweet, and if you don't try to confirm that or augurate to see if it's dangerous or whatever, then that's on you. So I mean, I would lie in that case, but even that I don't do regularly.
And you're not lying. It's the guy who wrote that.
Right. In context, somebody mislabeled it. That's fine. But that's even not something I would do on a regular basis.
Plus, the whole identify spell is thoroughly
well. You don't need identify for potions. Potions inherently give you their nature when you take a little sip. That's right in the rules. So,
sure.
But if you take a little sip of poison, you're still getting poisoned. But what the players learn to do is they augury. It's like, okay, we got these potions. We want to test them. Let's first augury them. Right? Will there be any danger? And if they get a danger reading, they're like, okay, let's be careful with this. And then the next thing they do is they say, okay, well, who's going to sample them? They outsource it to the dwarf with the high con. He's like, I can resist poison the best. So if there's a chance it's poisonous, it'll be me, right? So
I was actually referring to the aspect of some of the requirements for the identify spell kind of make it impossible for magic items to ever be identified other than by paying someone else to do it.
I know what you mean, and we've had this discussion. I don't agree. I think identify is extremely useful, but you have to understand the context. If you are a DM who's constantly giving players every like all the information, it's like, oh, you found a +1 suit of armor, then identify is a worthless spell. However, if you are being cagey with the information, if you're holding it back until they've done something to earn that information, then identify becomes really useful. The chance of a field identification, even a small one at first level, which is only 20%, the chance of a field identification is really good because the cost is right, as opposed to, okay, we got to drag this back now to a sage who charges thousands of gold pieces to identify it. So that opportunity to field identification makes it worthwhile, even if it's flawed.
Oh, absolutely. But
that's the use of identify.
But the requirements to cast the spell, the goldfish, the pearl, etc., make it hard. But then there's the line about,
but not impossible.
But there's the line about you have to identify it within
an
like
hour per level of experience.
Yeah, that's rough.
It can be. It becomes less rough as the wizard goes up in level, because like once your magic user gets 7th level, you can you can write the identifying scroll, so you make a stack of scrolls to identify.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're good to go.
But between 1st and 5th level, the likelihood that the wizard's actually going to have an identify spell memorized is pretty slim.
You go in, you know that going in. Like you might be an elf, right? So you have an elf with identify, so you're still participating, you're still fighting, you're doing your thing. Oh, hey, we found an item. All right, elf, get back to camp, do your thing, right? So there are ways around it. It's not a super convenient spell for sure, but it's not a spell without utility if you're playing the game right, and that's what I think is great. Whereas you get 5th edition, they turned identify into basically Google, right? You cast it and you know everything, no cost, no nothing. It's just here's that information, no inconvenience, no chance of failure. It's like, all right, well that's completely the opposite.
Real quick, no out of character conversation. The DM can't lie. I'm not sure what you mean by this, Daryl, because clearly the DM should not lie straight up. But There, you know,
Out
when
of out of character, I think he's saying the DM shouldn't be lying, but in character, yeah, I like, like if there's things in game or you're playing an NPC, of course you're gonna lie. If
I was
that
referring specifically to the potion of
right,
poison, where it literally
yeah,
in the book does tell you to lie,
yeah,
and
I
that
don't agree with that philosophy of, it's like
and there are
deliberately
other little
staff the
hints
player.
toward that idea. But like if you're playing an NPC, the NPC can say whatever the fuck you think they would say.
Right, exactly.
And when it comes to illusions, if you tell the player you see this, and then you've failed or not realized you failed, some saving throws versus illusion, and the DM starts telling you things that you see, but it's not really there because it's an illusion. Well, then that's too bad. It sucks. You got fooled by an illusion. What are you gonna do?
I
You
want
know?
to Chris Sheffer, you had it up prior, is if he was a thief in a party with a paladin, he wouldn't be walking around saying he's a thief or doing thieving, or you can see
Oh,
it.
absolutely.
Absolutely, and you wouldn't be broadcasting your alignment. Thieves in first edition also had to be a combination of neutral or evil. So the only good alignment available to them is neutral good,
Yep.
at least to start. They can change something later without much penalty. But so if you're a good aligned thief, you would probably be forthright with that paladin anyway. Say, hey, this is my set of skills, right? And
And maybe call yourself a locksmith.
well, I mean, the idea of being good is you're straight up, and you wouldn't lie to the paladin, especially if you respected him. If you are of good alignment, because this is literally the dynamic in our game with Night Below, who the team leader's a paladin. The thief is neutral good, and so he has his own secrets. He says, hey, there are things that are mine, but I won't lie to you. And he's never dishonest. The paladin knows he's a thief. He knows that's his set of skills. He doesn't actually do any thieving. He does the adventuring skills. He's he sneaks
Locksmith.
ahead. He's the locksmith. He's the trap detector. Things like that. And the paladin has no problem with that. It's only when
Yeah, it's really the backstab, the use of poison, and the picking pockets that could get you in any kind of trouble. Everything
but
else could
he doesn't use
literally.
poison. He's a good line. He's made the choice that this is
Right.
not one of the tactics I use.
Mhm.
And stabbing in the back. Well, we call it a backstab, but a paladin is a soldier and he understands the value of a flank attack, right? He doesn't use tactics dishonorably, but you're in a melee, backs, you get turned to the back, it's sometimes you
His
just
back was to me.
his back is to me. Even the paladin gets rear shots when they're in massive melee. So
Mhm.
if he's fighting in an honorable duel, he's not going to stab somebody.
Right, like if we were talking about before, with the party surrounds a big intelligent monster, and the monster decides to turn
Turn
around to
back
hit
to
the
the
player
paladin.
behind him.
Can't hit
With
him.
some,
His back is to
I
me.
can't swing. Gotta
Yeah,
wait.
no,
No bullshit. That's retarded.
right. But he won't backstab in a manner of betrayal, or if he's in an honorable duel, he's not going to stab somebody in the back. That's a totally different thing. But when you're in a mass melee, war is war. So yeah, again, there's ways. I'm not going to say around the thing, but the players also learned that early on that the whole idea of and this is where players will screw this, like the paladin's like, oh, the thief's got to do something shady. Oh, I'm going to stand over here and say, well, that doesn't wash, buddy. You still know something's going on. You got to challenge it.
Yeah, but if the players are passing notes and you don't know what's going on as the paladin, they could
Well, that's
easily.
different. If the paladin is legitimately out of the loop, that's one thing. But if the paladin is there, it's like, what was it? The interrogation. We're gonna beat the shit out of this guy. The paladin's like, he's evil and has murdered people. I'll do the beating, right? Which is totally fine within a paladin's.
Because I'm not going to kill him. I'm just going to rough him up a bit.
Gonna rough him up. That's a societal thing. If it was illegal, okay, paladin's nope. The law says we must treat this scumbag prisoner, with respect, and we will. But trust me,
Yeah. What about the mercy thing? If something surrenders.
then you accept it. But also remember, there are various forms of mercy. Like a quick, clean death is merciful, right?
I
And if
suppose.
paladin has legal authority to summarily execute somebody, then so be it. Sure, I will give you a merciful, clean death. You won't feel it, but but that's all situational. If most of the time people surrender, the paladins they'll accept the surrender. They'll take prisoners, but but every once in a while we say we can't just drag this prisoner around. We're not in the position to do it. We can't let him go. What do we do? Well, that's a dilemma for players to solve. And that's part of the fun of the game.
Well, because there's always someone who'll just wait till the paladin's not looking and just he died. I don't know how. You know,
But
I've seen that too many times.
But that is the fun of the game, is these conflicts in morality. Okay, the thief, he's generally good, but he's going to do some shady shit the paladin won't agree with. What do they do? What do they do? Does the paladin turn a blind eye? Well, yes, he ceases to be a paladin until he repents, right?
Redeems himself more than repent.
Got to redeem. Well, I mean, again, this is by the book. A chaotic act can be redeemed. You have to go on a whatever quest. You have to seek redemption by a priest, but it can be done. It's when you do a willfully evil act, then you're SOL. That's it. You're permanently a fighter. Mm-hmm. But even I'm actually loose on that. It's like even I feel that even evil acts can potentially be redeemed. It just becomes a lot harder. What can you do to redeem an evil act? Well, that'll depend on what the evil act was, right? But
yeah, because if you're not careful, you create an anti-paladin.
I'm not a big fan of that as a class, but somebody who I think he has a fallen paladin who's now
you can literally depending on how you do it, take the character away from them and go. That character's become too evil to be a player character. I'm turning him into an NPC. Make up a new character.
It's something I would rarely do, but a character, if like the paladin in our group fell and he became evil, it's like, I would probably still let him play him, but just not in that context, because all the rest of the group are still good. They didn't follow with him. So that character would be removed and he would go into the player's folder until he can use him, or he might choose to retire him. That's fine. I wouldn't necessarily make that choice for him. Now, if he became undead, he became a vampire, that's different. But if it's a character,
or what about were creatures?
No, I would allow players to play were creatures. A paladin would cease to be a paladin. I don't think there are any lawful good were creatures, because once they shift in a line, once they accept their new state of being, their alignment shifts. So you would just cease to be a paladin by virtue of the alignment, even if you kept.
Oh no, I meant to anybody, to be honest.
Fine. The process for playing them is every once in a while you either have the choice of it's a curse and you change with the full moon, or you accept what you are and you totally become it, and then you shift your alignment. If you're fighting it and it's a curse, you're still who you are during the day when there's not a full moon,
like all the great movies,
right? When you change, you're out of control. Like you're an NPC. You don't get to control what, unless a really good player, I'd probably let him do that. But a lot of players they'll try to maximize it, use it to their advantage. It's like, well, no, you don't get to do that. You're a mindless raging beast. But that would really depend on the player. But yeah, you aren't who you are. So one of those things, I think a paladin who becomes a were creature, I would have to think about the context. Do they, if they're trying to remove the curse, what are they doing? Do they lose their paladin status until they remove the curse? That would be an interesting.
And I think it would also depend on the kind of were creature too, because one of them, I think the were bear or something is good.
Were bears are chaotic good, but they're still chaotic,
right?
So. But that's just if he accepts his life now as a werebear, he becomes chaotic good, and he would cease to be a paladin, right? Even though he's still good and still fighting for right, he's no longer he doesn't have the divine purity of a paladin, so he's done.
Not with that shit running around in his blood, no.
Right.
That's an abomination, even if it is good still, which I never understood, other than they're taking it from Bjorn from Lord of the Rings. And that's literally what it was, a 1-for-1, situation. They just wanted to have it in the game because I don't see. I know bears have been trained to act a certain way throughout history, but that's through extensive lifelong training, not the nature of the animal itself being good, because we know damn well that bears are not, good aligned.
I mean, you can do something like that. I treat it like the Hulk. When Bruce Banner transforms to the Hulk, he's a rage machine, but there's still enough of Banner in there that he holds back. Like he wouldn't, he won't kill innocents. He instinctively protects people, even though he's raging and scaring everybody. He's still Bruce Banner in there, and it's something like that, right?
Right, but my point is all the other bears don't do that. So why did they decide? Because what if the character itself was chaotic neutral and got turned into a werebear? Why is he suddenly good as a werebear?
No, that's lore you add in. And that's a fill in the
Or
blanks
or
for
or
your campaign
even
world.
or if they were evil, like say you had an assassin gets hit by a werebear and survives. Now he suddenly goes out and does good when he's a bear. Doesn't make any sense. You know what I
Well,
mean? Other
you never
than
know.
the
You never
fact that
know.
they're
You
trying to.
you can explain that and justify it anyway. Like I said, things like that are a good fill in the blanks. You can add whatever flavor you want to justify it.
I couldn't think of any. That's why I bring it up because it makes no sense to me.
Not like they seek out ways to do good. It's just that's the filter that they respond to a situation with. So if okay, that werebear who's out of control, he's shifted from chaotic neutral to chaotic good, comes across like a mugging or whatever, something like that, or a group of evil creatures attacking people of his own kind. He recognizes humanity. It's in there in his subconscious. He will protect his people. All right.
Mhm.
And then carry on, then rush off after he's slaughtered the evil
Yeah, but you
hordes.
would think that any character turning into a werebear in town would just instinctively just try to get the hell out of town. Period.
And they
That's it.
would. Why wouldn't they? Yeah, but that's a fair response. Um,
Whereas whereas the opposite, every other were creature turns into a were creature in town is going to do some evil. Someone's dying that night.
but again, it also depends on. This is where we get the situation of is it somebody who's accepted who they are and then suddenly they're in control when they're a were creature, or is it somebody who's changed and it's a curse? Right? Hey, boo boo.
Yeah, I never watched the A Team, and I never played 3.5. So, I mean, I kind of maybe I played a Pathfinder game, and maybe I'm not sure what edition. I played a couple of one shots with table breakers or gatekeepers back in the day, but I don't consider that really playing. It was over the course of 2 nights, it was about 3 hours of game, and I never read the books. I was just given a
Well,
player,
I mean, the
pre-gen.
idea of a group of paladins holding court, that's not necessarily, an edition limited thing. I'm sure maybe
Oh
3 point
no,
stuff had that could be anything.
yeah, I
That's
mean, all
more.
kinds of folks, not even paladins, have done the same thing. Military
Yeah,
tribunals,
I
kangaroo courts, whatever you want to call it, throughout history. So yeah, but I can
going
see
back to
that.
what we were talking about with demographics, paladins are extremely rare. They're like
Right.
a 1 in 500 adventuring class. So that's a 1 in 5,000 in the population is going to be a paladin.
Hmm.
So the idea of a court of paladins, means you're basically bringing it's the knights of the round table. You're bringing all of them from a
Right.
1,000 mile area to this one area, right? And I have
But
that.
what about uh, forced progress?
What do you mean forced progress?
Okay, you've got a group of adventuring characters, and over the course of their career, they have not only secured or created a kingdom, but maybe even more so, and now they can start changing those demographics by instituting uh, new kinds of schooling and new kinds of things like that, to where they try to uplift the population beyond the basic zero leveler.
Then you have to figure out what your numbers are going to be. What would that's on you as a DM. If you want to have that, it's like, okay, so yes, if the education is supreme, everybody is an elite, then that that becomes Camelot. Really, it becomes an elevated nation. You have to decide what the numbers would be. I know in I've told you about the 1 in 100 ratio in second edition. If you read the high level campaign book, they actually changed it to 1 in 10 is adventuring class, so it really expands those numbers. That's all you do. You just increase the numbers. You can say, okay, well, because of this society is elevated, where our rulers are so rich that they created universities for magicians and academies for soldiers, and everybody is so well educated and elevated. Yeah, it's a 1 in 10 ratio now, right?
which would have its own problems and challenges. But I think that's is something a lot of. I think that's why we one of the many reasons we don't see GMs willing to go into domain play. Uh,
But it doesn't happen overnight as well.
no,
So, it's like
no, and there's no
player tells me
guarantee.
their plan. It's like, all right, well, let's you guys have to pay for it. You have to pay the income stream. It's like,
You
all
have to
right, well,
get,
I got
mind you, most games fall apart before the average player is 9/10 level, and doing that, and I think that's why a lot of games fall apart is because the GM is just like, yeah, that's not what I wanted to do, you know, and it's like, well, it's not really your choice if the players, say, hey,
that
we're
boils down to, as you say, well, what is the game we're playing?
right.
Like if I'm running AD&D, I expect that's a possibility. So if it happens, it happens. I tend to adapt. I am adaptive in terms of what I'm doing.
And to be perfectly honest, I mean, um, I get it. I get both sides. I get the GM not wanting to do that because it's a completely different game, completely different kind of work, and it could be more work, but it could also be less work because I've seen groups where when you get to that point, the players are doing all the work for you.
Mhm.
They're drawing up this and that and just
Which is
getting
great.
stamps of approval from the GM. But at the same time, it takes a lot away from the GM and what they can or can't. I'll use the term throw at the party. You know what I mean?
No, it
Because
doesn't. They're building their societies. You still have agency to say, well,
oh,
okay,
absolutely.
this is the challenge your society is going to face, or this is the challenge, or there's an invading army that doesn't like you, and you're now at war.
Hmm. Hmm.
I love the Oriental Adventures book. If you look at the back and the appendices of that, there's this
Hmm.
events tables that you can roll random events, yearly, monthly, and daily events. It's like
Yep.
that gives you everything you
You
need.
could literally use that, and you create. If you're a programmer, create that to do all your work for you.
Yeah,
It's just like,
yeah, exactly.
this is what happens, and then print it out or copy paste it off to your players on a regular basis. This is what
That's
happened.
where that's where a dungeon master gets his fun. It's like I know so many people who plot out their campaigns and or they write it. Like every time a DM tells me I've written 100 pages, I'm like, oh, that's a red flag. I like to play it. Like I want to see what happens as much as the next. Now I'm running. I'm running Night Below, which it has an end game, but I'm not so married to. I want to see it completed 100%. But if the players say this is too much for us, we're getting out of here. It's like, all right, I will adapt. The game will continue, and sure, I don't get to finish the
We'll see what
module,
happens.
and to see what happens. Like they're committed. They want to see it through too. They're
Right,
loving it.
because I never understood that mentality of writing the end. I've done many videos on it because it's the worst thing I've ever heard of. It's like if a GM writes the ending before the players have even started,
Mhm.
you've literally just turned it into a big fat lie.
Well, there might be some variation along the way, a little bit of nuance, but
Right,
yeah,
but
you're still creating.
that barely justifies what they've done, which is lie to the party, the players, as to what they're doing at the table.
Now, having an enemy with an end game, and you know what that end game
Not
is,
the
if
same.
indeed that's the same exactly. It's different. But if you're literally writing out the beats, well, player X is going to sacrifice himself, saving the rest from this villain, and it's like really, and some DMs will write that level of detail, and
I've
it's like,
seen it.
yeah, it's like, well, I don't want to play in that.
That's not a game.
Yeah,
That
if you're
that Sean would say you're just human die rollers. If that, you may be even less than that. That's just them. I don't even know what you'd call that. Besides, it's incredibly deceptive and uncool. But I've seen it in the past. And I think the TSR modules kind of laid a lot of that groundwork. You know, um,
some did, yeah, where they're very specifically laid out, and
the Slaver series and things like that. It's just like, well,
Yeah, it's railroaded. Yeah. And it's unfortunate. Now, at some point in certain, if you're playing through a scenario, you do get to a point of no return where you have to see it through. But even despite that, I try to give the players, let them know that, and I had to remind them recently. It's like, okay, you guys are all committed to Night Below, but at the same time, don't feel that my desire to see it through, especially for my channel, in any way binds you. Make your choices, do your thing. Now, the character who's playing the paladin is bound to the quest because he's accepted the quest from the king to investigate the goings on. So he's bound by honor to do it. But even then, within the bounds of it, he can say, "This is too much for me. I'm going back to the king and asking to be dismissed." That's the lawful paladin way of bowing out of an adventure. He won't just take off and say, "Fuck this noise, I'm out." You know, he will do so within the confines of a character. But that is still their option. They can still abandon quest.
I had a similar, not that kind of issue, but similar, where I kept telling players, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do this, and a couple of them like, yeah, you're just saying that, so we'll do it, and I'm like, no, we're not playing this reverse psychology bullshit. I'm telling you this, you can do whatever you want. I don't care.
I've told you,
care.
If you think I'm implementing reverse psychology, that's fine. Make your choice based on what you think, but it's still your choice.
Yeah, because I literally didn't care. I could have gone in multiple different directions with the campaign, and it's still running. And my players who are in it know what I'm talking about. Fortunately, that problem player is no longer in the hobby, as far as I can tell.
Right.
But I literally do whatever you guys want. I don't care. I'm having fun, in my own way, doing what I'm supposed to do, and I'm hoping everybody else, and it seems like they are.
And as a DM, that's where I'm at. Like, I want to see what happens. Like, I don't want you, if I have an idea of what the end game might be based on what they're doing, or if
it's almost like I don't know if you do this, but like I'll create the thing, like say, last week they said they were going to do this, they were going here doing that, and I'm like, okay, I will write that up mentally or on paper, whatever, and then when when the time comes to do that, I'm in a completely different mind space of like, let's see what happens. I built up the bad guys, and this is what they can do, okay, and they're going to do what they should do according to what they can do, but I have no idea what the players are going to do. I don't even think about it, and they pull these crazy things because I've forgotten that I give them this item, or that they have this spell, or they could do this thing, or whatever.
Right. And when they pull something out of their butts that you forgot they had, do you stymie them, or do you say, "Hey, that's great"?
I'm like, "Oh my god, that's freaking awesome!"
Yeah.
They've heard me say that a million times. Like, "Oh my god, I forgot about that." That's not drat, foiled again. I'm not twisting my mustache, all pissed off. Never have I ever been like that.
Right, that's what you want. You want them to come up with creative stuff, or realize that what they had was not a useless item.
Or maybe I gave it to them back in the day, thinking that later on it's going to come in handy for something like this, or something cool. They just don't realize it yet, and they pull it out. I'm like, that's awesome, or they come up with some freaking X-Men like freaking complicated thing. Awesome. I could just make up more bad guys. It's not like I have anything invested. Oh no, you killed my freaking ancient red dragon. Oh no.
Yeah, no, I love it when
there's 12 more. Well,
when they own a boss. Did you watch my Lizard King videos?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't see them yet? Okay, so spoiler. When they first encountered the Lizard King, my thought was, okay, they're gonna get fucked. They're gonna get wrecked. His Lizard King he's a Strahd level threat. He's brutal.
Oh, okay.
And they annihilated him in 2 rounds. Like the dice were with them, and they smoked him. It was like, well, that was anticlimactic. But the Lizard King's a vampire. He poof into mist, makes his way. They're like, we gotta find his coffin, right? And he's got like a secret coffin behind a wizard locked secret door, and they didn't find it. So the Lizard King came back, and it's like, now it's interesting. And if they had found the coffin, that's it. That's all. But now what's happened is there was a retribution, and now the Lizard King is a major enemy who will factor into later games. It's like, okay, so this will be ongoing. But
it's awesome, especially when players don't get it. Like like they've defeated a bunch of bad guys, right? And for the most part, a lot of them could have come back, but they haven't. You know why? Because they're not. I got more stuff to do. Bringing back so and so, whatever that villain might be. Sure, that could happen, but that's like when you're running out of ideas.
Well,
That's
at the same time, let the dice decide. Like, you're arbitrarily saying, well, okay, I'm not bringing him back, but it's like, okay, let the dice. Let's roll morale. Oh, morale failed.
well, like
Like,
one
I'm
one
not
case.
messing with these guys. They smoked me once. I'm lucky
Sometimes
to be alive,
like
right?
like when religions and things like that are in play, like at one time they killed an undead. I'm not going to say what, but because that undead failed at what they were doing, they had a boss.
Mhm.
Okay, well, they're not coming back because the boss killed them. You failed,
That's reasonable. But I'm just
but
saying,
they
like,
don't know that. You know
let
what I
let
mean?
the you can let the dice decide too. It's like maybe that guy who got beaten by the players is now out for revenge, right? Or like I said, the morale fails. So he's like,
There are
you know what? I'm
plenty
lucky
of
to be
those.
alive after these guys. I'm keeping a wide berth from these guys.
There are plenty of those, but they keep moving around, and I mean like on a war on like a intercontinental level,
Right.
So unless they've made like that ultimate villain, it's just constantly all day long, crystal ball spying on them, you
But there's
know.
there's other reactions too. Like, do a reaction to see, hey, maybe this guy who got his ass handed to him by the heroes is like, I like these guys. I want to ally with them, right? And suddenly they've got a friend. You know,
Or worse, or not worse, but another thing that people don't realize is that if you beat a really powerful bad guy, one of the reactions could be one of their reactions could be abject fear.
Yeah, I was just saying that. That's why your moral morale is like keep
Is
wide
they
berth.
stay away and they're never coming back because they're terrified.
Yeah,
What's
or
up, off grid?
protect, right? Hey, off grid.
They're not coming back because that's the last thing they want unless you hunt them down. Which, of course, player characters are too busy doing other stuff, so they're not going to be like, "Oh, hey, remember that so and so we killed? Yeah, we should go hunt his ass down." No, and I don't mind the whole like monster of the week because uh, reoccurring, creature types for me gets really, really, really boring because they just end up being big sacks of XP and hit points after a while. That's why I've never done giants in this campaign that I'm running because it's first off, I find it hard to believe that giants would be the way they've been portrayed in the books. A lot of them should be incredibly intelligent and masterful, and they're always just portrayed as just big, lumbering, mentally challenged
Well,
monsters.
it depends on the giant. There's so many species of giant. The hill giants are dumb. They're just basically bigger ogres. But then once you start getting into like the frost giants or the fire giants, they're smart. So as you say, it's
Right.
like you should play their intelligence. And not
Mhm.
every creature wants to die. Never like how many times have we? I do it too. I'm guilty of it, where the monsters just attack. Like I got myself into the habit as I played more to. I'm rolling morale, I'm rolling reaction to see if they want to talk before anything happens. But DMs would just have monsters charge in and attack because they want to get a combat out, and it's like, ugh. My a friend of mine that
That's it.
I played with, he used to do. He was all about he loves the fights, but he didn't understand the math of the game, so he would always overpower the players. Like he would never use mooks. He would never use zero levels. All armies were elite. They're all minimum second level, and he couldn't figure out why players didn't want to play in his game anymore because everything butchered the players, and he put you in fights you couldn't get out of. You had to fight. It was like mandatory. It's like, well, we can't win. The numbers say we can't win. I remember one time we had us surrounded by dire wolves. We were first level characters, and somebody cast Speak with Animals, and which was great. Like, we had a druid with us cast Speak with Animals, and Speak with Animals in first ed, as you know, it makes the animal docile. They will not attack you. And
Mhm.
he keeps going. It's like, okay, well, we're like, what do you want? And it's like, food. We are hungry. It's like, well, come with us. Come with us back to the town, and we will feed you pigs. And we're trying to negotiate with these wolves. Is like, not enough time. we'll eat you. And he's like, and it's like, and I had to stop him. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. This spell does not allow them to attack. It makes them non-hostile.
It's a
And
very, very overpowered spell if you think about it.
well, it should be. You know how much of a disadvantage most players are, especially at level 1. It's a brilliant spell. It's one of the reasons you take a monk. If your DM is playing properly and a lot of animals, a monk at third level gets that at will. It's like, oh my god, that has saved so many lives.
You said
Sorry,
monk. You
yeah,
said
monk.
monk.
Yeah, the monk gets it inherently at 3rd level. That's
At third level. Yeah.
yeah. Druids have to cast it, but monks can do it at will, which is massive. It's a
But
massive.
is it identical to the spell?
It's identical to the druid version, because the cleric version only affects one creature. So if you got a pack of wolves about to eat you, you get one of them. The rest will still overwhelm you. But the druid spell gets all creatures of the type. So you got a pack of wolves, you cast it, and suddenly all the animals become non-hostile. That's an amazing power. And the monk gets it as per the druid, and they get it at will. There's no limit to how often they can use it. And so it's one of those low-key things that people don't think about. But if you got a DM who's using regular animals all the time, as they should, you've got the monk has this amazing power to keep groups alive just by communicating with animals to make them non-hostile if they're aggressive, but also for information. It's such a great ability. But yeah, the point I was saying, my friend, the DM there, he was all about the combat. He just wanted everybody to have fun fighting. It's like, but then he didn't want to make it easy, so he didn't understand the math of the game. So we were always overwhelmed, and people were dying left, right, and center. Couldn't just
Well,
have
I mean, if it's outdoor encounters and you're using the outdoor encounter tables, etc., you could get a long stretch of random rolls where you just have to run, and even running isn't
yeah,
enough.
100%, 100%. You shouldn't be fighting everything you meet in any instance.
No, where I
But
mean, where like first encounter, random roll to first encounter, and it's a group of freaking wyvern, and you can't outrun them.
right, we better hope there's trees nearby that you can get shelter.
And there just so happens to be like no trees. You're in the plains or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's possible.
You're just starting over, because that's just the way it
and
is.
and and if
Outdoor
you're doing random encounters on a hex crawl, then that's fair. But the DM on question I was talking about, he would plant that. That would be an encounter he puts. Okay, when they get to the field, they're going to have a flock of wyverns attract them, and there would be no roll to see if they ignore you. There'd be no roll. They attack. It's like, I remember he had one guy, the guy landed in front of us who was flying a rock. One of the enemies, the tribes we were trying to negotiate, was flying a rock. It's like, right.
The reason I brought that up was because I was playing a half elf, I think. I don't know. He was an assassin, and he happened to have a longbow, and we ran into some wyvern. We killed them, and I asked the GM if I could try to get some of that venom, and he's like, okay, make some rolls. I got it. Right.
Okay.
Put it on my arrows with wax so that I wouldn't be getting
You won't prick
damage.
yourself and die. Yeah, yeah.
Right. I did all the cool shit. Right. Next encounter, freaking ancient red dragon just happened to be flying overhead. We were all supposed to run, and I'm like,
I'm gonna
fuck
shoot.
it. I pulled back my longbow, poison arrow. I freaking miraculously hit, and I'm like, okay, saving throw. He's like, all right, fine. Took out a 20-sided die, rolled it in front of all of us,
A natural one.
and I got all the XP, the whole kills.
But that's brilliant. That's great. I love it when the DM will do that. You'll allow for the dice to tell the story.
And I got all the XP all to myself, and that's a lot, and that kind of killed the game. He didn't DM again. I never.
I mean, that's an opportunity. For me, that's an opportunity. Suddenly, your character known as one shot. You one shot at a dragon, and that gets around. There's also you killed him in the middle of the field. It's like, okay, well, now there's a race to find his horde, right? People learn that, oh my God, the dragon's dead. and he was killed outside of his hoard. So we got to go. And now there's a race against other treasure hunters to find his hoard. It's like, that's an opportunity. That's a story. The story emerges from what happened at the table, not because, this big dragon was going to be the BBEG and he killed him with one shot. Now my campaign's dead.
I think it wasn't really so much that, was that mind you, I've been DMing for many years, and he knew that me being at his table was gonna be just rough. You know what I mean? I was gonna pull out all my stops and give him get a little lesson as I played, and we stayed friends, but he never DM'd again.
That's unfortunate, but I mean, I don't see that as rough. I see that as you engaging with the scenario, what happened, right? So that's interesting to me. You could also go through a boring session where nothing happens, and it's like, it's like we went 3 days in the wilderness and didn't encounter a goddamn thing. Players, nothing happened. This is boring. So, well, you explored.
That happens. That should happen. I honestly think that should happen more often than not. These DMs that roll like every freaking hour for wilderness encounters, looking only at a monster table, to me is I've been in the woods.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah, every hour. Well, there's again, the DMG is your guide. There's a little chart that tells you how often you should roll for encounters based on the terrain you're on. If you're on the plains, it's twice a day, right? You do it at like noon and at midnight or something like that, and it's a 1 in 10 chance if you're in the wilderness. But if you're in a pacified region, like if you're just traveling across farmland, it's a 1 in 20 because it's been pacified. There are no creatures.
And I'm actually creating for a company a list of encounter cards that are more not combat, more things, interesting, unusual things that can happen.
Oh, I agree. Encounter table should be a whole ton of them. You should encounter merchants, farmers, regular animals. And I love the 2 to 20 charts, where it's like, okay, number 20 and number 2, because you're on 2d10, are extreme. They're very rare encounters. So that's where you can put your chimera. The one chimera in your region is there. 1 in 20 flies out. Whereas the 10, 11, 12, which is the common encounters, that's okay. You're encountering shepherds. You're encountering wild dogs or wolves or, whatever animal.
Some of my encounters, I'm not going to say what because there's just too many things, aren't even anything like that. They're not even like living creatures or undead or creatures of any sort. They're just things that can happen. Like maybe you find a tree with apples on it.
Right. Yeah. I love it.
Just something that's like, hey, this is kind of cool. Remember that time we found that apple tree? It's just something that's simple.
The best part of something like that is players will immediately get suspicious. They'll like spend a day trying to figure out what this tree represents. It's like, it's just a fucking apple tree.
It's just friggin' apples, dude. It happened, or you find the remains of somebody who got killed, or you find a random piece of equipment, or even the weather.
Just stuff like that. Well, weather, I have its own thing. I use the weather charts from the WSG, which are fantastic. But okay, so let's say they encounter a nocturnal creature. I roll, it's a random encounter. It's a nocturnal creature, but it's midday. Then what I'll do is, as you say, I'll have the aftermath or some evidence of it's there. They don't encounter it directly, but maybe they find a body of a creature that was mauled by this rare creature, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Or a million other things that can happen or be encountered that don't have to be right out of one of the monster tables, because that's
a monster. But you do want it to be something they can engage with, right? It's like,
absolutely, and it could be something really. I mean, it could literally be you're traveling down the road, you find a gold coin just laying on the road.
Right. Well, the apple tree example is great
you'd be amazed how weird, like you said, the party will get. Oh my God, it's a cursed coin! Don't touch it. It can't possibly be a coin that just fell out of a merchant's pocket. Maybe it was his lucky coin, and if you return it to him, he'll give you 3. It could be something really dumb like that, or it just randomly fell out of somebody's pocket. That's it. The end.
Yeah. Hey guys, I found a gold. Who needs a single XP? But yeah, no, like the apple tree example is great because that's also an opportunity for them to, like, you could say, okay, well, they're going to fill up their bags and they got a couple extra rations, right?
Yep, absolutely. Or maybe one of the players actually could whip up a Brown Betty, the next time they camp.
Right. Yeah.
Is there something that would, you know, uh, with a little effort, with they've got all the ingredients, they put something together, and next thing they know, they've got like a sweet dessert for that night, and they kind of mark it in their mental calendar, kind of like when Bilbo climbed up the trees in Mirkwood and just looked over and saw that sunset or whatever.
Hmm.
The glorious view that changed his life, that he would have never otherwise experienced, but yet we never, ever, see those kinds of things in our games. It's always, something the exact opposite of things like that,
Well, from a
nobody,
from a game perspective, you still need to engage the players. So just telling them they see a gorgeous sunset's going to be meaningless to them, right? The
could be.
role player in the group might say, "Oh, well, I want to sit down and watch it and eat some time," but they might. So from a purely game and mechanical perspective, you do want something they can engage with. Even finding a gold coin, as you say, they'll figure it out. So those moments are important, but they still have to have sort of impact from an engagement level at the table. That's something. Just describing a sunset or just describing that won't do it enough, because people, okay, well,
Well,
why is the
it
sunset
depends on
different?
how you. I mean, if you use it as a kind of like a personality test, you've got, let's say, six players in the group, and they come up to this cliff, and there's a winding path that starts leading down, and the sun starts setting, and uh, I describe it. It's like you've never seen anything like this. Some of you have never seen mountains or cliffs or things like that. And then just make a note of what each player does. It's like, oh, cool. Let's go down. Or let's make camp here. Or I'm the one guy who, like you said, is the role player. You can get a gauge on you know what kind of player they might be going forward, and you can make a note of, okay, they enjoyed this, they didn't care, they did this and they did that, and keep those notes for things that later on you might be like, well, I want to do this, and have them bump into this thing, whatever it is. But from my records, it looks like maybe only 2 out of 6 are going to give two shits about it. To gauge whether or not you want to put more things like that in there, and encourage them, and maybe even go, oh well, you uh, tomorrow, the whole day, you're going to be at +1 on all your rolls because of your attitude toward the thing. You saw something that mentally, inspired you. Maybe it was the bard, and they decided to write a song that night. Or
I mean,
maybe
if
it
you
was,
want to do that, yeah, that's a
you know,
totally thing to do.
because I'm always trying to find ways to get people to actually role play when they say they're role players instead of just adventure gamers. I don't have a problem with either, but if they come into my game and they say, "Oh yeah, I'm a role player," okay, well, let's do that. You
Well,
know,
what I found is, because I've got a mix. My table, my AD&D table specifically, has a mix. Like one guy he's now a talent agent, but he was an actor, so he leans into that.
Mhm.
The rest are your typical gamers, and I don't police it one way or the other. The only thing I try to police a little is metagaming,
Mhm.
depending on the level. Even that
Well, it's
I'm
not so
fairly
much
familiar.
policing. It's like, uh, if I'm advertising a game as this, you know what I mean? I don't want just people who just want to get into a game, or who just want to play this particular game because
Right.
they've never played
Well,
it.
what I was about to say is I just let them play the game, and like I DM the way I DM, and the other players will play the way they're going to play, and you'll find that they sort of adopt the traits of each other. They try to match the energy. We've got one guy who was when he first joined me in playing, he was very shy. Like now he loves doing the odd voice, and and playing character, and it's just sort of come out of him over years. So.
And wouldn't you rather have more of those guys than the power gamers?
Yeah. I mean, I have my preferences, but at the same time, the power gamers don't bother me. It's like, 'cause at least they're still engaged with the system, and there's a limit to how much they can power game, because I don't do buildings.
Or the anti role players.
Well,
You know,
so so long as they're not causing trouble with other players.
Well, like the ones that are like, hey, let's get back to the game. It's like, well, so
well,
and
this
so's
is,
role playing right now.
but they
You know,
know that. No, not anybody in my games knows that. It's like, no, this is part of the game. You know,
right.
you may not love it in this moment, but you'll get your turn too. Everybody gets their turn.
Multiple games I've ran in the last couple of years, there have been people who don't understand that. They think role playing has that the funny voices and all that goes with that is nothing but a distraction from the game.
Yeah, and
And
those
they
players
don't
will either
realize,
adapt or they'll bow out of your game. I mean, you know, I'm not going to change the way I run the game that I run. This is sort of my philosophy. I run the game that I want to play, right? And you know, I've had players come and go because it's not quite a fit, and that's fair. You know, I've cultivated the people who like my game and are happy with it, and that's just the way it is. Eventually, I mean, like half the group is nearing 70 years old. So we were joking about it. It's like, yeah, I think
wow,
a night below might take another.
why do you say shit like that, man? I just turned 59. Man, don't remind me. I don't feel it. Um, that is awesome. I used to do the same thing off grid, but well, it's weird because like I've got a lot of people I know that have been in my games and liked them, and they liked when I do the funny voices for the NPCs. That's fine, but you get a player who does that, and then over here you have two other players DMing me saying, "Hey, can we get back to the this guy's just eating up all the time doing his thing," and I'm like.
Well, that's on that's you. That's on you as a DM to parcel the time. Everybody gets their moment to shine. If the, you know, and
Right, but
role
if like what they mean by that is like everybody gets 1 minute and then go 1 minute,
one minute's a
go.
little too short, but yeah,
Right, but that's literally a very common uh, mental
right. Yeah.
attitude.
Well,
Like,
you know, if and this happens when players split up. You know, the whole meme of "don't split the party" doesn't apply at our tables because
I had my party go in 4 different directions last week.
yeah, and it's like, all right, well,
4 different directions.
that's why the turn-based system is so great. It's like, all right, you're active for a turn. If you're doing something like exploring or interacting or role
Sorry
playing,
about that, off grid.
that's 10.
He actually went. He was one of the players in the game, and he went in a direction that guaranteed that while everybody else was in combat, he was just sailing. Nothing was going to happen for like hours, maybe or an hour, and the other guys are all engaged in combat or stuff. And I was just like, "Fuck,
But
dude."
that's yeah. Sometimes that'll happen. It's unfortunate. It's like just check in once in a while, and you know.
But that's why I was bringing up the online etiquette versus in, if you guys are all at the table and you're friends and you're in person, etc. And Joe Blow over here, he's like really hamming it up. Everybody could just look at him and go, "Dude, come on, man." You know,
Yeah,
enough to get. But when you're
online is slightly
online,
different, but you still have
when
to
you're online and somebody's trying to do that, even if it's just for a couple of minutes, it's like everybody's getting anxious. Like, hey, man, we only got like another 45 minutes. I expect to do all these things in 45 minutes, and it's not going to happen. But they're hoping that
Yeah.
we're gonna have an encounter. We're gonna go through their treasure. We're gonna find some cool shit, and then you know
that's something you just got to feel your
Joe
way through.
over here,
Really.
we're not going to get to the treasure part, or we're not going to get to the combat part, or whatever. And I'm finding more and more that it's literally got to be like all adventure gamers or all role players. There is no mix because it's not going to work in online gaming the way you think it is. It's really not, and it's going to be unsatisfying for the mix. You know what I mean? Because no matter what you do, no matter what limit you put on it, the adventure gamers don't want to hear any of the role playing nonsense. They just want because that's all of it. Especially if you give everybody 5 minutes, you got 3 role players, 3 adventure gamers. The adventure gamers are going to be pissed because 15 minutes out of every 30 is wasted in their opinion. Whereas
Right.
the role
Well,
players
yeah, just have to feel it through and assemble a group that will gel.
exactly.
Yeah,
But the
my
problem,
online group was a group that more or less gelled. I mean, one player left because he wasn't happy with, and this is a case of the conflict. He left because he wasn't happy with the way things are going down, but he was also sort of a spotlight hound, and I don't cater to spotlight hounds. You get your turn like everybody else,
Mhm.
and he's one of those types that he expected the story to be catered to the players so that they could succeed. He wanted the victory, he wanted the power fantasy, and I didn't play that way. So he ultimately got frustrated and left. But everybody else, they gelled perfectly. So it was like, all right.
The problem I have is that people lying, saying I'm a role player. No, what do you mean by that? Is what has to come afterwards. How do you feel about funny voices?
I
How do you
mean,
feel about
the proof is in the pudding. You can only really assess once you see them play. We had a guest player in my online game, my 5e game, and I vetted him. Like I had a hour and a half conversation because one of the regular players wanted to bring him in to play. And, he was saying all, as you say, people lie. He was saying all the good things, the right things. I was like, okay, listen, this is, I adjudicate. What happens. You probably want to make more than one character because even though it's 5th ed, you probably die. And he gets himself, first he starts trying to create conflict with the other players. He had this mentality that he expected everybody to bow down to him. It was like weird at the table, on the VTT at least. And like one of the characters in one of the regular characters, he was a lord. He was the leader of the group. He was of noble blood, and the guy playing he was supposed to be a lawful neutral, refused to acknowledge this guy's lineage. It's like, well, no, he's noble blood. There's a certain etiquette, and he was acting the most weird way. And then finally, when the guy who brought him in, the friend who brought him in, I had an idea. I wanted to investigate something because there was mid-campaign. He went with him, right? So okay, the two friends doing something together, perfect. Then he got himself killed. So he just had this meltdown because he got himself killed. He didn't use one of his abilities, and then and he could have because he was a fighter. He didn't use his second attack that would have killed the enemy. The bug, it was like a screeching bug that had a howling. I got it from the out of the box adventures from Nerdarchy, and it was like this screaming bug that stuns you with a sonic attack. And
sounds fun.
He'd done some damage with his attack, and it's like, do you want to use your second wind or the second attack, whatever it's called for fighters? And he's like, no, I'll save it when I need it. And then the bug does its screech attack. This guy fails the saving throw and dies, right? Anyway, and then he had a meltdown, and he was like, I'm like, here's an NPC you can play. You didn't make a second character like I suggested. Here's an NPC. Oh no, this NPC doesn't suit me. Right. And then we find out later that he was demanding apologies. Like he was talking through my friend who brought him in. He's like, yeah, your DM should have apologized to me for the way he treated me. It's like, wow. Right.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
So to your point, yes, people lie. And I had a conversation with
Well, I mean, there's that. And literally, just because you play a role-playing game doesn't mean you're a role player. Sorry. If you don't speak in your own character's voice, and that doesn't have to be any change of tone, or pitch or anything like that. Like I'm talking right now, that might be my character's voice, but the way he talks, the what he's saying, you should. I mean, even if you have to say in character, my character says, and then you go do that,
Well, that's all fair and reasonable. I mean, for me,
But if they
the role play
none of
aspect
that,
is understanding the character and making choices through the filter of the
if
character.
if it's all tactics and all, I mean, you can feel it when it's not in character,
Mhm.
and it's always that, and everything's optimized for every single possible contingency, because that's the other thing I've noticed.
But you want to give them a little leeway because some players, okay, you come to a game, and a lot of players, they come to a game, and the expectation is, well, I'm trying to win, right? They haven't adjusted the mindset for a role playing game, and some people it takes a little bit before they figure that out. It's like, no, we're here to see what happens, to explore scenarios, and the role playing is like that too, because most players, especially newer players or video game players, they treat their character as sort of an extension of themselves. They're sort of an avatar of themselves. This way they take things personally when things go wrong, so they take it as a personal slight. And
Mhm.
once they can get rid of that mindset, they're usually happy and they play the games. But they start, and this will, as they get more experience, they start to think, well, if my character would do this, even though I think it's a stupid idea, but my character's low wisdom, low intelligence, he might do this stupid thing. Yeah, I'm going to do that. And then you watch the magic as their minds expand and they have fun. It's like, hey, that was hilarious. That was hilarious when I pressed that big red button and everybody had to run because the building.
The other problem is that most of the people we all know and who are drawn to playing online with strangers or new acquaintances, etc., are old hats who've played a lot. And I mean, most of the people I play with are, people who've dungeon mastered. So they've got all kinds of tricks up their sleeve that the average player or character wouldn't have, but yet they're pulling this information that they can't help, cut off what they
It's
know
hard.
versus what their character would know.
It can be hard, and I've got a player like that in my game. He metagames all the time. The last adventure they encountered, they got a helm of comprehend language, and he immediately, just not even thinking about it, started spouting off the mechanical stats of it because he used to be a DM and he memorized all the stuff. And it's like, hey, watch it with that metagaming, right? But even then, I'm sort of, it's like, all right, fine, so be it. That if it's really egregious, they get a performance rating ding, because I use the rating system in AD&D, something I highly suggest. It's a really great system. Or if he, sorry,
1, 2, 3, or 4.
yeah. But even then, sometimes I'm lenient. It's like, sometimes he'll remember, because I've been trying to coach him. It's like he'll frame it in a lore way. It's like, hey, I've heard of such things that can translate languages. This might be a good thing. We're going into the Underdark, right? And it's like, then that's more forgivable. But that's I guess an occupational hazard. It's just going to happen when you have players who are experienced. It's like,
Well, and it's not just experience. I mean, it's like I'm not going to swell their heads by calling them experts, but it's damn near that. Whether it's in one system or a variety of systems, it you have to match their knowledge with your tricks of the trade.
Yeah, I'm not.
Otherwise, it will be a horrible game that reminiscent of a game you might have run 30 years ago versus your best game, because they know all the tricks, and if you don't bring up some new tricks, they're just gonna be like, "Yeah, this game was boring." I'm like, "Well, yeah, you know everything,
Well,
maybe
this is
take a
where
break, maybe." You know what I
rolling
mean?
back to the conversation I had earlier about randomized combat and combat chaos, that all the tricks they want aren't going to save them from that. So that's one thing. But the other thing is, I have a sort of a what you think philosophy. For players like that who are experienced and who know the books, you don't get to pull open the monster manual and refer to it at the table. That gets you a ban. I had one player do that at a public game, and it's like, no, that's not cool. But this player in question, the metagamer, he nearly got everybody killed because he was so convinced of information he had, but it was absolutely wrong, and he led the group down a path that nearly got everybody killed. And it's like, I'm not under any obligation to correct you when you're wrong. And so they learned real hard. It's like, yeah, let's not trust his knowledge all the time. Let's engage with the scenario as well. And so that was a pretty good lesson where everybody got butchered because of his mistake. But
that's why at the beginning of the game I'm running now, I let everybody know that I changed every monster from what it is in the old books, because it's a completely different world. It's my world. Things are going to be different.
And that's fair.
That's not the only thing that's going to be different.
My philosophy is very similar. In that I run the baseline. Like, I don't make any changes, but I reserve the right to, if there's a special enemy. It's like, oh, that orc chieftain happens to be a weapon specialist and a grandmaster and 10 hit dice. Well, that's my prerogative. It's not like every orc in the army is going to have that, but this orc chieftain is going to cause you a problem if you fight him. It's okay for stuff like that.
As long as you decide that before you get to the table.
Oh yeah, I never do it on the fly. It's like, you know what, these guys are powerful, so I'm going to put a 10th level.
Yeah, no, you can't do that. It would be not necessarily cheating, but maybe it is. But you can't do that.
No, if it's a random encounter and I have to do off the cuff, I go baseline by the book. But if it's 50 orcs, then there is going to be the third level, sub chief in there. That's right in the layout.
And there could be a visiting dignitary from an ogre tribe, who's
That's also laid out. Yeah, they have
who's
that.
in the middle of
There are certain
negotiations,
numbers.
and the ogre happened to be working for a freaking an evil necromancer who also sent one of his underling necromancers with him, and you can think that stuff up quick, and then pencil in the minor details. But if you suddenly like change their hit points in the middle of combat, yeah, that's no bueno.
Yeah, no. If it's a random encounter, I have to generate it right on the spot, then it's by the book. I don't play with that. I don't say, okay, well, there's also going to be a wizard in here, unless the breakdown says, if there's 50, there's a 10% chance of a wizard, but that's different, right? So no, that I'll do. But if it's something I'm planning, if it's an encounter I'm creating, then yeah, I'll play with it. I'll have fun with it.
Yeah, I don't really use any. I mean, I'll make up my own encounter tables, but then I'll usually roll them before the game if I know the players are traveling, so then I can get the numbers and shit down.
There's a second ed supplement that's called the Deck of Encounters. I have that, which is also fantastic.
I have all of those encounter cards. All the cards actually.
Yeah.
That's why I'm writing some for another game, because they needed something that wasn't just random monster tables, and I was explaining to them like, I've got this list of things, and you'll see it later. But in the meantime, I actually got to get going. It's noon of my time. I got to take care of some stuff. I'm glad you came in. I was actually going to direct message you and say, hey, man, can you hang out? I got some questions.
You've kept me from my work for 3 hours, so congratulations.
I'll take all the blame for that. You can blame it all on me. I psychically reached out into the ether all the way up to the Great White North to call in my good friend.
You were talking AD&D. That's always going to suck me in.
I really wanted to talk about other hobbies, but oh well. I just got to, from now on, I got to reverse psychology my description of the video and say, I want to talk about this, not wanting to talk about that. So, thanks, man. Off grid, I will see you Saturday or Sunday. Everybody else, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Well, I might see you tomorrow off grid, but you know what I mean. In the meantime, folks, I got to go do stuff.
I got to do stuff. So, all right. Have a good day, Shadow.
Take care, man. Thanks again. Everybody else, have a great day.